Hey, good afternoon, everybody, or good morning, I guess, if you're on the West Coast, or good evening if you're in the Philippines or some other place. But welcome to the show today. We've got a very special guest. Of course, Klaus Janson is going to be joining us in a few minutes, and we're going to do an interview for about an hour, and then we've got some art to sell as well. So I think everybody should really enjoy our presentation for today. But before we get started, I figured I'd give you the scoop on how we're going to do the art sales. Of course, we do variations of different art sale shows here on the channel, as everybody knows. And today it'll be subtly different, but very familiar, I think, in many ways. We're going to handle everything via email, and the emails are going to be going into Jason when that time comes. So it's jason@essentialsequential.com. And when we're showing the art, every artwork will have a lot number. And so when you email to request the purchase and claim it, you will be including the subject Klaus Art Sale or Jansen Art Sale, whatever feels good to you. But in the body of the email, we want you to have the lot number that you're wishing to purchase, as well as your name. First email into Jason will actually get the artwork. Jason will reply to the claimant who has won it, and we'll let them know that that they got it. And he will also do his best to let those who didn't get it know that they didn't get it as well. So that will be the process for today. Claims won't be happening in the chat. Payments methods, just so you know, there's many options. PayPal or credit card will require a 4% fee added, as it has become very customary in the hobby these days. But if you can go by check or money order or Zelle, those methods, of course, won't require any kind of additional fee added. And the way Jason has things set up through Essential Sequential will have you create an account on their site if you don't already have one. Many of you probably already do. That allows him to get you a proper invoice and the proper shipping and tracking information for you. Makes everything so much easier than coordinating that by email. So, but we'll give you instructions on how to do that if you've claimed any artworks today. And as far as shipping and handling goes, the prices that you see today when we show the art do not include shipping and handling. FedEx 2-day is a 35 domestic, and international, as we all know, has a lot of variations. And so we've just put 500 or 50 to 200 in there. But I think by and large, most shipping internationally is probably closer towards that lower side. But those of you in Australia, New Zealand, and a few other places know it can get fairly costly. So so there you have it. That, and I'll review that really quickly before we do the art sale too. But I wanted everybody to understand the ground rules for today. Email client is going to be your way to claim artwork. So let's get this thing started, because I've got actually Klaus and Jason with me today. And Klaus Janson, welcome to the show. And Jason,
thanks a lot, Bill. Thanks, Bill. Thank you.
Hey, it's a pleasure, Klaus. I actually, when we were, I went to Heroes, and I saw you, and I kind of gushed when I saw you. I was like, we've never met before. I just wanted to thank you for all you do. And you really smiled, and I was like, oh, I can't tell him who I am, man. I just walked off. I really wanted to talk longer, but
well, now's our chance, Bill.
Now is our chance. Somehow it worked out just fine.
Great.
But yeah, we've got a good audience, almost 100 people watching the show already, so that's fantastic. But so Klaus, 50 years in the business, and you're still do you love it as much today as you did when you got started, do you think?
You know, actually, I'm in a really good period right now. Just, personally speaking, artistically speaking, and I love it even more right now. I have a couple of projects I'm working on. I'm having a great time. I'm doing, especially one that I would mention, is a black and white and red for Marvel, a short story. And that's like totally in my wheelhouse. I love tones. I love texture. I love the chance to do a little bit of red. I can't tell you what the character is because they haven't announced it yet, but it's a great gig, and I got to say, it's a great job all around. To be an artist is amazing.
That's fantastic. I mean, so when you got started, I mean, was your goal to be in the comics business when you were first, breaking ground, or as an artist, where were your passions at, getting started?
When I was a kid, I came over from Germany. I was born in Germany and then when I came over, I was about 5 years old, and I didn't know how to speak the language. I couldn't write, I couldn't read, I couldn't speak it. but I discovered comic books during that summer when I and my parents came over, and I learned how to read and I learned how to write by putting the words together with the images.
Mhm.
So comics have been with me, since I was 5 years old, and they left such an enormous impression on me in terms of how powerful and valuable images are, and how you can communicate using just images. So the idea of storytelling through images is something that is extremely personal to me, especially since I learned how to navigate the language through it. And that's been with me from the beginning. And I'm still amazed at the ability of images to communicate information. It's amazing to me. Storytelling.
But was comics the end goal once you decided that did you really, because I know you've taught, I mean you've made books on creating artwork, so I feel like that's a big part of you. But did you was comics definitely that was it when you settled on a career that you knew that was the goal?
It was, Bill. It was. I wasn't really exposed to any other kind of art. I mean, being a first generation immigrant, we were kind of uninformed or uneducated and poor. The family was really struggling. Coming over from a foreign country. So what I was exposed to was what was in the neighborhood, which were a 5 and dime comic book shop that had comics for 10 cents. And that was my art, in air quotes. And so I always wanted to be I wanted to be in this medium. I'll tell you a secret. When I guess I was maybe 12 or 13 or so, I sent in a letter to one of the companies, and I wanted to see if this was a real thing, if there were really people behind this industry or behind the magazines that I was reading. Because when I was a kid, I thought, well, I don't know, maybe these letters in the letter columns are all fake, and they printed it. But it was under a pseudonym, which I have to laugh because, you're a kid and you don't know what you're doing, right? So I sent it as a pseudonym to see if they would respond, and they printed it. They printed the letter with my pseudonym.
That's fantastic. Well, I've always heard that artists that were breaking into the business in the early 70s were doing so because they wanted to be in the comics profession. But maybe those creators who were in the 50s and 60s were always looking at comics as kind of a jumping off point to get into advertising or something else. But it was that era of creators, around the time Wrightson and the Buscema's coming in, and yourself, really you loved comics and wanted to make it your career. It wasn't a stepping stone to maybe move on to a different form of whether it's film or advertising art or what have you. But I just think it was an interesting time. I mean, you loved comics enough that you wanted to make that your profession.
That's, Bill, that's a really insightful thing to say. And I was able to hear something similar from John Romita Sr. He did an interview with David Armstrong. I think David did a whole series of interviews with people from that generation. And John mentioned that most of the people of his generation, the Eisners, the Kuberts, the Buscemas, he himself, John Sr., they all went through, World War II and the Depression and the financial and economic reality of that time. So they were very much concerned about page rates and about, making a living and supporting their family. And when we came in the 70s, that was not our concern because we had it pretty cushy. We grew up in the 50s or the 60s or the 70s, and there was no depression. And so we were economically secure. And you're right. What we wanted to do was simply explore the medium and make it better. And I think that to a great degree, I'm really happy and proud to say that a lot of us from that period of time did make the medium better. There was more experimentation, more energy, I think. We were very much invested, and still are, in what storytelling is about. How to push the limits of storytelling and the medium itself. Yeah.
Well, that's exciting. I mean, and we're all the richer for it at the end of the day. I think that, and you inspired the artists who came along in the '80s, right? We wouldn't have maybe a Bill Sienkiewicz if Neil Adams hadn't come out. It's just amazing how those of you who came in the early '70s really did help shape comics in a different way. It kind of relegated some of the earlier creators and writers, I mean, Stan himself, to kind of take a step back and let a different group of writers and artists really come in and take charge and put their footprint on things. And it changed comics for the better in a lot of ways. And while not like pushing those guys out at all, right? I mean, Kirby and Sinnott and several, many others were still able to kind of flourish in that same time period because they got to work with different writers and other anchors and pencilers and things. And it just made everybody's careers so much better when I think it had that influx of people who really felt comics were a special medium and a place to really hang your hat for your entire career.
Yeah, I think that's absolutely true. And I think we were very lucky to combine our efforts with some of the generation that came before us.
Mm-hmm.
And certainly in terms of being an inker, I mean, I inked, guys like Buscema and Coburg and Gil Kane and Sal Buscema, Gene Colan and all those guys that came. We do stand on the shoulders of giants. And I mean that with all my heart. I mean, I learned so much from being able to work with pencilers of that caliber. And it affected my own penciling greatly. For the better, I hope.
Oh, I would have to believe so. So, who were some of the early creators that you worked with, maybe with, in a studio or whatnot early on in your career, who maybe made the biggest professional influence on you?
I met Dick Giordano when I was about 18. I went. I kind of crashed a tour that DC used to give Friday afternoon tours of their offices, and there was a 2-page cartoon in one of the books that I had read that explained this tour thing that DC used to do.
Mm-hmm.
So I took it upon myself. I got duded up, I wore a jacket, and I was living in Connecticut at the time. I put on a tie and a shirt, and a respectable pair of shoes and pants and stuff. And I showed up at DC Friday afternoon, and the receptionist, told me that they don't do tours anymore. And I was crestfallen because I thought, wow, this is, I came all the way to New York for nothing. And I remember, it was just so funny that I think she felt very empathic or sympathetic toward me. I made an argument that, I came all the way from, Connecticut, blah, blah, blah. She said, let me see what I can do. So she goes in the back into editorial. And a couple of minutes later, she pulls out Jack Miller. I don't know if you know Jack Miller, who was the editor. Yeah, he was editing Dead Man at the time, which was something that I was really reading. And Jack apparently, didn't have anything to do at the moment. And he was very, very nice to come in. And he said, I'll take you around. So I had a tour, with Jack Miller as my guide, a one-on-one. And I met Neil Adams was in the office drawing an Adam Strange cover. And Marv Wolfman and Len Wein were in the cafeteria chatting. And I met them. And I was introduced to Dick Giordano, and Dick remembered me from all the letters that I had written to Charlton Comics, which were apparently copious. Like it must have been like an avalanche of letters. But he remembers me when Jack introduced us, and it turned out that Dick lived in the neighboring town in Connecticut. I lived in Bridgeport, he lived in Stratford, and they bordered each other. And he knew that I wanted to be an artist, and he said, come up and see me and show me some of your work. And that was the person, to answer your question, that was the person that really took me under his wing and influenced me greatly. I remember very specifically the day when I showed him a page, which was maybe, the fourth or fifth meeting or the fourth or fifth time I had gone to his house. And he looked at me and he said, this is a good page. After, hearing, you suck, by the way, and he said, this is a good page. And he looked at me and he said, if you can do one good page, you can do another. And I thought, I can live on that. That's what I need to hear. I need to hear that, and I can live on that, for the rest of my life. And I actually have. Because if you can do one good page, you have it within you to do another one. And then I became his assistant. I did backgrounds for him for about a year. And then I went off on my own. Although he was always available for advice and counsel. And he not only taught me about, art, but he also taught me how to be a businessman and how to be a professional. Always meet your deadlines, be responsible. You have to own the page in order for it to succeed. It's nobody's fault if it doesn't work except your own. You're responsible for that page. If that page sucks, it's your fault, not the writer, not the colorist, not the editor. And I think that's a really good lesson.
Definitely. I mean, so were you only going over to his house? Were you going to continuity at that time, or was that?
When the two of us started getting a little friendlier, and I think he was probably testing me out to see if I was a jerk, And I guess he came to the conclusion that I was, relatively safe. And then I would visit him at continuity, and we would ride the train together, which was great because he had an hour and a half to talk each way. But he was, he was a workhorse. He would get up at 5 a.m. He'd ink a page, catch the 8 o'clock train, be in New York like at 9 o'clock, go to DC, and then take the 4:59 or whatever it was, back to Connecticut, and then he'd draw some more. He'd ink or he'd draw something. He was funny because he had the route from continuity to Grand Central, which was about 7 blocks, maybe a little less, 5 blocks, 6 blocks. He had that route timed perfectly. And he knew how to get to Grand Central underground all the way. So there are passages in New York, tunnels and Rockefeller Center has a lot of underground stuff. He knew how to navigate that all the way to Grand Central underground. It was amazing. It was great fun.
That's incredible. And obviously Dick and Neil launched many artist careers, right? Just giving them the opportunity to work on backgrounds, penciling, inking. It's incredible. Again, speaking of the influence, you had artists coming in that really wanted to be a part of that of the business, and then you had both Neil and Dick just being a wonderful studio to kind of foster young talent before they kind of went out on their own. I mean, so many careers, and it's such a great positive influence. And I've heard that same thing about Giordano, as far as just being a very regimental. He just had a tight schedule. He kept to it. But you look at the amount of work that both of those gentlemen put out, and the fact that they were running a studio like that fostered so much great talent. So they're two guys who will be always well remembered as being, so important and pivotal in comics history. I mean, I don't, where would we be without somebody who was willing to take that kind of opportunity and craft talent to then let them go and work with Marvel and DC on their own, by just giving them the chance to sit down around those, at that point, legends of the industry, and being able to kind of sit next to them and learn from them and learn the ropes too, like you were talking about. Dick trying to kind of showed you how to be a professional, right? I mean, those things were all important because, again, as a self-employed person, those are things that maybe not everybody has, but you had those guys as guides too. And I don't know. I just don't know where we would be without.
Well, the advice that both of them shared was just invaluable. And I will say Dick especially was an enormously generous person, in the sense that he was not competitive with his mentees, unlike myself, by the way. Any assistants that I've had, or anybody that I've nurtured or tried to give advice to, I have to struggle to be as non-competitive. I still am very, very competitive. I feel like, okay, I still have to be better than everybody. And I think Dick was just extremely laid back about where he was and what he could do, and he was full of confidence. He was a very, very, there are three people, maybe four. You can always add to the list, but there are three people that in my life are the most loved people in comics, since in the last 50 years since I've been in the business, which are John Romita Sr., just an enormously wonderful person in terms of his personality. I don't know if you've ever had the pleasure of meeting him, Billy.
I've not met him. I've seen a lot of interviews with him. He seems an absolute gem and a gentleman. Yeah.
He extraordinarily so. Polite, well-mannered, generous, supportive, kind, funny. All those things. The other one is Archie Goodwin, who is, of course, passed away. Archie was a very unique person. There's no one that could replace him. Extraordinarily talented, warm, funny as all get out, and just a pleasure to be with. You can't say that about everybody, And Archie was just one of those people that you just don't get enough of him. And Dick would be the third one. Just very, very giving, warm, supportive individuals. I always feel very, very lucky to have met those people.
Yeah, I did get to meet Dick twice at a couple different cons. Didn't get to talk to him. It was early in my collecting, original art collecting career. So I didn't really have a lot to say, but I remember just being able to hang out with him and just see some of the artwork, because he loved talking to the fans. His concepts were always great. Yeah.
When I would see him in the office, he would always smile. He's always happy. He's that happy warrior type of person. What he was like in meetings, I don't know. But walking around, checking on editorial, he was always happy. He was the one that ran into me in the hallway and asked me if I wanted to ink Frank Miller's Batman project. He said, and I remember it very clearly. We bumped into each other in the hallway, and he said, Frank is doing a Batman project, and he wanted to know if you were interested in inking it. And, I thought about it for, 2 seconds, right? And I said, yes, of course. And I didn't know what it was. I don't even know if anyone knew what it was exactly. But, Dick was just an amazingly warm person. Yeah.
That's nice. We are getting some questions from the audience, and I saw one
Sure.
coming from Facebook. So a lot of people, and most people are viewing this on YouTube. So I figured I'd highlight that one just to show. Emilio, just want to know if you ever gotten the opportunity to ink John Senior.
Emilio, I inked John on one pinup that he did. I think it was a variant cover for Superman, because at one point a couple of years ago, John Jr. and I were taking over the Superman book. John penciling and I was inking. And he talked his dad, I assume, into doing a pinup. And so I was able to ink John Sr. At least that one time. Yeah.
How do you prepare for
Which is
something like
a
that?
good question, by the way, Emilio. Thanks for asking that. What'd you say, Bill?
Well, but how do you prepare for something like that? I mean, I know when you when you work with somebody regular, like whether it's Frank Miller or you get to work with Buscema or John Buscema, for instance, you have that experience working with them, and you sort of know how you want to ink their work, how you want to put your touches on their styles. But how do you your one and only opportunity to work with John Senior on something?
No.
What do you do? I mean, do you look at old work and just try to say, how can I do this and not screw it up?
Well, you're right. If it's somebody that I've inked before, you have a sort of a feel for how to approach it, right? You sort of know the ins and outs, like John Jr., or Gil Kane, or somebody that I've inked before, or Frank, for that matter. But if it's a new person, then you really have to. What happens is, I usually put it on my desk, and I walk around the desk a couple times. It's like a ritual. I think, if I walk around the desk, I'll absorb it somehow or something. But I remember certainly being nervous about John Senior's inking John Senior. And another one that I was nervous about was Joe Kubert. At one point, I think Don Daly, who was the editor at Punisher at that time, wanted to do Adam, Andy, and Joe Kubert variant covers, which I thought, that's a sweet idea. Anything with a concept is always more interesting. And Joe did the first cover, and I was terrified, petrified, absolutely, and I look at it sometimes and I think, oh, I should have used a heavier line. And then for whatever reason, Adam and Andy didn't do theirs, probably some conflict of some kind. But after I inked Andy on the third Dark Knight, I forget what it was called, the one that Frank wrote with Brian Azzarello. So I inked Andy, and Andy said, your inks remind me of my dad's. So that, was obviously an extremely high compliment. So maybe in, retrospect, I figured it out, but with Andy instead of with Joe. But it is what it is. Yeah. But yeah, if you're asking me, was I nervous about inking John Senior? Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
That was Master Race, by the way. Thanks.
Master Race. That's right. Thank you.
So would you ever cheat and like light box a little bit of a piece just to kind of get a feel before actually setting brush to the page, or do you just jump right in and after you paste a little bit and just
after I circle,
and you can do it. You know what you want to do with that page.
I think I'm kind of, I hate to use this phrase, but I'm kind of beyond that. I will have a certain way of getting into the piece. So I often will, even with my own stuff or inking anyone for that matter, I'll start with the backgrounds and warm up with the backgrounds, do some straight lines, do some texture, do some, trees or some special effects or blast lines or something, just to make sure that the tools are working and that I'm awake, But I think, the first thing I think about when I ink is, where's the heavy line? Where's the light line? Where's the thin line? Where's the heavy line? So that means, where's the light? Where's the light source? coming from.
Mhm.
And once I know that, I can play around with it and get to a good place, I think. And even if not, there's always whiteout or digital.
Oh, I thought you were going to tell me you never use whiteout.
Oh no, I mean no, my pages are, are like a relief map. It
Yeah.
has hills and valleys. Yeah. But not with digital. I do everything, I do all the corrections and cleaning and a lot of the inking digitally. So there is no whiteout anymore on my pages. But the older pages, like the pages that have lettering on them,
Mm-hmm.
they're like, it's like the Rocky Mountains. it's like,
Well, there's nothing wrong with that. But you know what? People
Yeah.
who are new to collecting original art, they don't really understand that. That board it could be pristine or it could be beat up. It could have coffee
Right.
stains on it. It could have blue line,
Yeah, that's right.
pencils. You just don't know what you're going to get. And so some people are shocked when they see it. And there's collectors who only want to collect the most pristine pages that are out there, and most pages have damage on them, right? If you lean your elbow on it and it's halfway over the corner of your
Sure.
workspace, you're going to put a ding in the middle of the board.
Yeah.
But it's not like you're going to pick up a new board and start all over. So it's you get what you get in those kinds of things. That is a good
Well,
point.
and also you have to factor in that a lot of artists use whiteout or gouache. I mean, I use gouache. That's what I use, and to do special effects, smoke or clouds or some sort of texture, or you work over it, deliberately to get a certain effect that you want, a certain texture. So there's whiteout or gouache, or there's white paint on a board for many reasons other than correcting them. Yeah. Dick always taught me, one of the things that Dick taught me was ink outside the border. Don't stop your line at the border. Go beyond it. So if you're going to do that, then of course the gutters need to be cleaned. Mm-hmm. So the gutters will always have, some sort of white paint on it if you need to clean your gutters.
Right, or they could tape them in some way to kind of cover up where you've got.
Sure.
Yeah, that makes sense. See, we're already half hour in, and there's so many things to talk about, and we've got a lot of questions too. So, and several of them are still kind of early career sort of questions, I think.
Whatever is there, let's do it.
That's right. I want to keep the audience happy too. And
wait, can I ask a quick question?
Yeah, sure.
What was the pseudonym that you used when you wrote into?
I've never told that to anyone, and I will take that to my grave.
Okay, fair enough.
But good question, Jason. Nice try.
The follow-up.
I can answer it. This is probably one, as far as career-wise, we go back.
Sure.
I'll hop onto this one now. Even it's a recent one. Stevie B says he's had a fanzine he did called The Creative Adventure. Was that done right before you started showing your work and learning from Giordano, or was it kind of early, or during that period?
It was right around that time, and
Yep.
and Dick did the cover for, I think, the second one, or maybe the first one. But yeah, it was around that time when I was trying to nurture my relationship with Dick Giordano. Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
All right.
That's a real collector's item, by the way.
I've not heard of it.
Exactly.
I hate to say.
That's my point, buddy.
I shouldn't have said that. That's like, you never ask somebody how old they are. It's like, I should say, I've never heard of something you've worked on as a interviewer. I shouldn't do that.
That's right. You're like a lawyer. You should know the answer, right?
Yes, I have to at least nod and act like.
Don't, Bill. Don't worry about it. It's okay.
And I'm going to get to Southern Comic Geek because he did a super chat question, but Anthony asked a question that was kind of interesting. I didn't think about myself, but he said, "Did you meeting and working with Dick Giordano define your decision to become an inker and not a penciler?" And I guess a complimentary question to that was, when you were starting out, were you hoping did you want to pencil, or did inking just kind of become an easier entry point as a professional in the hobby?
Well, that's both of you. That's a very excellent question. That was from Anthony, you said?
Yes, Anthony
Yeah,
Snyder.
Anthony, I appreciate the question. Thank you. What happened was I went to, I guess I was like 19 or 18, 19 or 20, somewhere around there. In between, you know, I dropped out of college because I wasn't getting what I needed. And I wanted to be an artist. And I was taking, I think my major was poli-sci, political science and English. But I, you know, because I couldn't get into the art program, it was full. And I dropped out and I worked at McDonald's for a while. I was also Santa Claus at Macy's. And there are pictures, by the way, of that, which also I'll take to my grave.
I bet they're not online.
Yeah, no,
Yeah. I'll tell you, Klaus, I was actually looking for early photographs of you in the business. I couldn't find anything online. I thought, oh, we could show some blasts from the past images here as part of the interview. Couldn't find a single one.
Well, Bill, then I can only tell you that I'm doing my job. What can I tell you? I've wiped the internet clean. But what happened was I went to a Phil Suling con across the street from Madison Square Garden. And I had a bunch of pages with me from that fanzine, The Creative Adventure. And Gil Kane was coming out of a ballroom. And I was with my friend David. And I said, oh, look, there's Gil Kane. And I thrust these pages, you know, into his hands. And he was, you know, much taller than I. Of course, in my memory, he's like, you know, 8 feet tall, you know. But I looked up at him, and he was, you know, looking at him. Hey, my boy. You know, he was doing his thing, and well, this isn't bad, you know. And I said to him, "How long do you think I need before I can make a living doing this?" And the reason why I asked him is because I hated Connecticut, and I could not wait to get out of there. I just wanted to live in New York. You know, this was my place. This was my town. And he said, well, penciling about 3 years. And he said, inking about a year. And I said, sold. So I decided, okay, I got a year to be a good inker. I got 3 years to be a good penciler. Which one should I take? I take door number 1. So that's how I decided to be focusing on inking. And then I thought I would focus on penciling as I develop, you know, the ability to support myself, to make money. And I think that's exactly what happened. I think the penciling came a little later than I wanted, but mostly because the inking was so much fun, and it still is fun. But I think basically that is what happened. Yeah.
Well, I mean, I guess it makes sense. I mean, you wanted your shortest path to entry, right? And inking was a quick segue for that. I mean, that makes a lot of sense. But you've done your fair amount of penciling as well, and in your career, not as much maybe as you'd like, but I mean, at least you've gotten to touch on, scratch that itch as well. That was there at the start.
No, absolutely, yeah. That was tough, by the way, making that transition. Well, maybe that's the wrong phrase, but showing editorial or the people who give you work that I could be a penciler as well as an inker was very tough. It was very, very, very difficult. People have an uncanny ability in general, not just people in the comics business. But once you're identified as something, it's difficult to break out of that. I mean, even with inking, I have the reputation for being a gritty inker. That word will, be on my tombstone. And I have done jobs that were as slick and as tight as anyone, and it doesn't matter. Because you're identified with this style, or people don't see the slick job, and you are kind of stuck with it, and you know, I've come to terms with that, and I'm at peace with that. You know, it is what it is. Yeah.
All right. Yeah, we've got a lot of questions here, but I've got to get Southern Comic Geek's question in here because he was
Okay.
kind enough to do it as a super chat. He said, "Get
Okay.
Klaus to tell the story about him inking DC in Marvel's office in front of me."
That's a good story. One of my favorites. I was. Thank you, Southern Comic Geek. I appreciate that very much. You know, I moved to New York as soon as I could, and I was working at Marvel, doing applying Letratone and Zipatone to the reprint monster books that they were publishing. They wanted to reprint a lot of the Ditko, Kirby, Don Heck monster stories, but in a black and white format, oversized magazine. So they hired me after many, you know, visits to both Marvel and DC, probably a year or two. And finally, somebody said, "Oh, you'd be good for, you know, this applying gray tones to these old monster stories, so they would look like, you know, they weren't just complete black and white." So I got to know in the office, I got to know Frank Giacoia and Mike Esposito. And they were kind enough to look at my portfolio and give me tips, of course. And one day, and I remember this very clearly, I think Mike Esposito called me up and said, "Do you want to help us out on some backgrounds?" And this was like Saturday. And they said, "Can you come in on Sunday?" I said, "Yeah, of course. What am I doing? Right? This is what I'm here for." So I went up to the Marvel offices on Sunday, and Frank and Mike were already there, and in their cubicle. We shared a large cubicle among the three of us. And Frank takes these pages and he hands them to me, and he goes like this. And I'm thinking, what? You don't want me to speak? And I look at the pages, and there's Superman by Kurt Swan. And I'm thinking, you know, this is like violates every, you know, cosmic rule that exists between Marvel and DC. I'm at Marvel and I'm inking backgrounds to Superman. So fine, you know, I was thrilled. So I'm minding my own business, and my desk was right in front of the door, although there was a glass partition between me and the door. And the door opens, and it's Stan, who was the first time I'd ever seen him, you know, in person. And I throw myself on the Superman pages to cover them up, right? So that he doesn't see them. And he, you know, he looks at me, and obviously he realizes, you know, I'm a crazy person. And he goes over and talks to Frank and Mike, and they're talking about old times, you know, and I'm like, you know, hugging the desk and, you know, covering the pages up. And they're having a good time, and it was great to eavesdrop on them, right? You know, they're all buds, right? They're all friends.
Of course.
And they finish their conversation, and Stan comes back, and he pauses, and he looks at me, and he goes like this: "Good reflexes, kid." And he leaves.
Oh boy!
I love that story. That was my first introduction to Stan.
That's incredible. So
Yeah,
I mean,
good
getting to hang around
kid.
with guys like Giacoia, I mean, that must have been. I mean, again, you got Giordano, Giacoia. I mean, legends. I mean, that had to have been a phenomenal experience just to kind of be able to sit around those guys and hear them talk about stories of the old days. I mean, probably we're happy to think, you know that you're coming in at a different era, but boy, I mean, the hour and a half that you had to talk to Giordano going into town for a year, I just can't imagine it. The conversations you guys must have had about the business and just, heck, even life in general. I mean, what a great environment to kind of get your professional start around those gentlemen.
I totally agree, and I'll tell you this just to ruminate on that subject, Bill, if you don't mind.
Mhm.
I was asked recently, which is very nice of Anthony. Anthony Marquez runs the Joe Kubert School,
Yep.
and Anthony asked me to give the graduation speech in May, and I think I'm going to do it, although I haven't told him that yet. But it provoked similar thoughts that you had just expressed. What have I learned in 50 years that I can pass on to kids that are just coming out of school, 18, 19, 20, 21. And it really made me focus on, certain things that I would like to be able to get across. And that's an interesting project to think about. So I'm finding that an interesting thing, and I appreciate you saying that about Dick or Neil or John Senior or Gil or whomever. I think hearing from somebody who's been there is very useful.
Oh,
You can
without
learn a
question.
lot.
And you were fortunate, or the digital age wasn't there yet. Everybody, well, many of you had to work together, so you had that opportunity. In today's day and age, so many of the artists, they're all working from home. There's no studios that are formed like back in the day. Miller was with Simonson and a few others, right? I mean, so you didn't have that kind of camaraderie that like at that time you wanted to get to New York. You wanted to, kind of live that experience and be with those artists and the creators of today, those kids at Coburg they're not going to have that same experience. So I think it'd be invaluable. I think it'd be wonderful to have you, give that speech in May, because you'd be imparting something there that will definitely leave a lasting impression on people. And I firmly believe that doing these types of interviews are kind of helping that, because how often do you get to be in front of an audience that is going to be able to watch this video for the next 20 years? I think that it's important that we get to have these conversations with with creators of all generations, but those of you who are really in specific periods like the early 70s and 80s, and getting to interact with so many people that we consider legendary today.
Sure.
It's important to hear those stories, because I think it's encouraging for young creators to kind of know that the challenges that they're facing are the same challenges really that you guys faced as well. You kind of had that advantage of being able to be together, but those difficulties are the same irrespective of the generation that you worked in. You still have to find a way to conduct yourself professionally so you can get repeat work and all those things. So yeah, so I appreciate you just being here today. This is about a month ago I didn't have, you weren't on the schedule, and then we get the opportunity to hang out.
And here we are, Bill.
Well, can I have a follow-up question?
Go ahead, Jason.
What do you owe the longevity of your career to? Because there's not many other creators that have been in the industry as long as you. Either they've moved on to other industries, but you seem to have, kept both feet in the industry for the last 50 years. What has made you want to stay and still create, comics?
I think, and thanks for that, Jason. I think that's a really, worthwhile and pertinent question. It goes back to what Bill is saying. I think that the way I've looked at it has been that I've added on to my skill sets as time goes by. So I started out as an inker. At a certain point, especially with working with Frank on Daredevil, but even before that, I was coloring Daredevil and coloring Buscema on Kull the Conqueror. So I would add coloring to that skill set. And then I was working very hard on adding penciling to that skill set. And then, writing a couple of short stories and co-writing Sacred Creatures with my collaborator, Pablo Rumundi. So that if I'm unable to get work, inking, I can get work penciling. Or if penciling has dried up, I can do inking, or I can do coloring, or I can do writing, or I can do a create own book. I can work on a book that's mainstream from Marvel or DC. So I think a part of it, and a large part of it, is having more things to offer the companies and that hire you. But I think also there's an element of it that is I have found this, like anybody in their 20s. I went through a period of time where in my 20s where I thought, oh, I'll be a director by the time I'm 30, and everybody thought that. Everybody thought that, in the 70s. I'm only going to do this for 10 years and then I'll go to Hollywood and be a director. And I thought the same thing. And what happened was I started to realize the potential of this medium was enormous. And then what added on to that was I started teaching in 1990. And I actually became, there were two things that really turned my head around in terms of leaving the medium. One was working with Frank on Daredevil, because I assumed more responsibility for the work as time went on. And that was a illuminating and eye-opening experience for me. And then teaching. I realized after the first two classes, 3-hour class each, that I'm out of material. I ain't got nothing left to say. And I had 2 semesters to fill up. And so I studied and I became, I think, a more educated or more informed about the medium and what it can do and how to do it and its limitations and how to overcome those limitations. It just became more interesting. And so, combining that passion that I have for the medium itself and for the discovery and for trying different things and new things and exploring different ways of storytelling, combine that with a increased or an expanded skill set, looking at it from the outside as I try to do in practical terms. I think those were the two things or characteristics that allowed my longevity. You can't dismiss the passion. You can't dismiss the ambition. That's a real big component of anyone's career. And if you lose that, then you're dead in the water. You're just dead.
So do you still have that passion today?
Very much so. Yeah, I will admit that last year was, I kind of thought, I don't know if I don't know if I really want to, how much energy I have or how much passion I have. But it came back. It came back at the end of last year. And I'm like on fire right now. I'm doing things that I really love. I'm trying different things. I'm coming up with new things that I haven't tried before. And I feel extremely ambitious and passionate about it. Yeah, I do.
We just got a comment from Sean Gordon Murphy, said, Klaus gave me great advice. It's not motivation, it's perspiration.
Sean, I love you. You're great.
What's interesting to me, and is that your first
perspiration.
You had 3 hours of course material, prepared. You were condensing your whole, everything that you wanted to impart on a class, and 3 hours was what you could get initially, and then it forced you to kind of dive in and realize there's so much more than those 3 hours. But I think that's great. I could see why that would invigorate you both professionally and as a teacher, because it really kind of probably, you had to really look at the breadth of your work and your career and your professionalism and say there is so much more to impart on these students at SVA. I almost went to SVA. Yeah, the only reason I didn't go, it was 1987, and the only place you could get a room was at the Y and share a bathroom. And coming from the Midwest, I said, screw that. I am not going to. As much as I wanted to go to SVA, I was not living at the Y. So I took it easy, and I went to North Shore of Massachusetts to a college there. But I would have loved to have gone to SVA and they had you as an instructor. It would have been like my last year. I graduated in 91, but yeah.
SVA is a good school, and they have many good instructors. But I'm glad you went to someplace.
I did. Yeah. I wish I would. I really wanted SVA, but I couldn't do it. And hey, we got a wonderful super chat here from Nick Barucci, a compliment to you as well, where he said there are 3 things you need to do well in this industry, and you really just need 2 of them. But it's to be a good artist, to be delivering things on time, and to be a nice person. You need 2 of them, but Klaus, you have all 3. So
thank you, Nick. I appreciate that. Thanks.
And that is probably very true. Let's see. Oh, and Jimmy Palmiotti, of course, is here too. He said Klaus inspired me to write because I could never ink anywhere as good as him.
Jimmy, that's a really nice thing to say. Thanks. That's a really. I'm sorry.
Oh boy, and there's been a lot of other questions too. We're almost at the 1 hour mark, but let me see.
Whatever you feel is right, Bill.
Yeah.
By the way, Jimmy, I think you've done pretty well. By the way, so all the best to you.
Yes, indeed he has. He's a neighbor now down here in Florida. He's in Tampa, and I'm just north of Orlando. Let's see. I mean, so many questions here. We haven't talked a lick about Frank at all here, and that would embody probably multiple shows if we wanted to. But maybe as a question, what was it like in those first meetings with Frank when you were being when you realized you were going to get to work with him? Were you excited? Because for me, as I wanted to be a comic book artist, but I was collecting comics at the time. I was turned on to Daredevil just prior to Frank starting on the book, so I was kind of familiar with the art and the work that was going into it. When Frank's work was first in there, I didn't like it. I mean, it was hard to, it was kind of like the first time I saw Bill Sienkiewicz. I was like, the first couple reads, I didn't get it. I didn't get the style. It took me it kind of was a slap in the face, but I stuck with it. And by like the 3rd or 4th issue, I was like, damn, this stuff is amazing. But for you coming in as a as a creative, working with him to put that together, I mean, what was that like for you? I mean, did you know that this was going to work out great to your advantage? I mean, as a partnership working with Frank?
No, there was no realization or epiphany that this was. I was working on Daredevil before Frank came on, so I was inking Gil Kane and Carmine Infantino and Gene Colan and Bob Brown. There were a couple of artists, and Daredevil, as I think was a really low selling book at that time. I think by the time Frank came onto it, we were bi-monthly because the sales couldn't sustain a monthly book. And so I wasn't sure if Frank was going to be, another person that was going to stay on the book for 2 or 3 issues and then leave again, and somebody else would come in, because that was the routine. And it's interesting, the first issue that he did, 158, was you could tell that he was really, really putting in an effort and trying to find his feet and our feet, collectively. He did ask for me to stay on the book, which I'm very grateful for, because it turned out okay. But it took a couple of issues, not unlike what you're saying, Bill, maybe 3 or 4 issues before we kind of clicked. And we were both living in New York. As a matter of fact, at that time, I think he was living about 4 blocks from my place in the West Village. Jason, you can show those prelims here if you want to share. Yeah.
It's just that in the private chat.
Right. Okay.
Yeah.
But that when he started, Frank was extremely tightly penciled, and so tight that and I remember this very distinctly, that the paper had grooves in it. A lot erasing and digging the pencil in. There are a couple of pencilers who I've encountered that pencil in. I think George Perez, when I was inking George, was also very, very. You could almost pour ink on the top of the page and kind of shake it, and have the ink run down. Of course, that's an exaggeration, but I'm just saying, we both were very, very intent on proving ourselves, and certainly Frank was. And then the real shakeup happened when Frank took over the writing, which I think was in 2 issues or 3 issues, something very shortly. And when he took over the writing, his writing and his drawing became synonymous. And so the storytelling became that much more effective. And I think that might be what you're recognizing, after 3 or 4 issues, Bill, that the art and the storytelling itself, the method that Frank used to tell the story was much more efficient, unique to the book, and very stylistic. It had a very cohesive feel to it. And then he and I, really think alike in some ways. We just had dinner a couple of weeks ago because our birthdays are 4 days apart. So we try to get together sometime around there in January, at the end of January. And when we get together, we still talk about, storytelling and the same things that was on our minds back in the 80s or in the late 70s. We're still interested in the medium and the efficacy of your choices, and what happens when you do this. I don't mean to get off on a tangent. Please pull me back. But I was watching The Last of Us, which I guess everybody's watching at this point. But the direction and the choreography are so specific and so intelligent and so well chosen that that there's a cohesive thought behind the direction and the cinematography and the editing. And that's what Frank and I brought to Daredevil, because we share a similar sensibility. Yeah.
Interesting. And, I never really thought about that, but maybe it was those 3 or 4 issues until he started writing that really flipped the switch for me. I think that
it's a totally
about. Yeah.
It's a totally different experience getting a script from someone who isn't an artist and having to deal with their belief that, they're writing a movie, which is always the problem, and someone who understands the medium. And Frank really does understand the medium, Yeah.
Well, that's. I've always, felt that, certainly in the latter part of his career, okay, go ahead.
I was going to say he knows what he's doing.
Mm-hmm. Well, it's interesting that you had mentioned yourself wanting to become a director. I think that it just kind of lends itself to storytelling, right? The idea that, you stick with comics, but but comics clearly have had an influence on film and storytelling. I mean, because Last of Us comes from a game. I'm sure those game designers have been influenced by comics and the way that you set up a scene. I mean, Howard Chaykin could talk for days about things like that, right? As far as perspectives and how to tell a good story, get the right emotion out of people. But it really comes, in my opinion, it does come back to the comics and that just great storytelling. And Frank certainly has all of that in spades. So a really fortuitous kind of moment for you both to just be working on that together, and for you to be the person to work with him on that.
Especially it was the right time and the right place, and we were both in the same. We both kind of had the same head, and it was fortuitous. It was really, it was exactly that. We were just in the right place at the right time, and we had similar sensibilities, and it gelled. It worked. It worked well too.
Awesome. So I'm getting pinged in lots of different ways here. Jason had to drop out for a second. He's going to pop back in. But let me see. I highlighted a question earlier too related to Frank. One question was from Rodney asking if will you ever be working with Frank again? I mean, I don't know if was a topic of dinner conversation at all, but he was curious if you guys had plans anywhere in the future.
Rodney, thanks for your question. I appreciate it. We always talk about it, or we mention it, whether we talk about it, in detail or mention it casually. But every get together, there is some sort of a acknowledgement that we have the potential to work together. Frank does have, an excellent idea for another Dark Knight, and it's a terrific idea. Whether or not he will ever do it, or whether or not he does it and I'm involved, who knows, right? We don't know that. I mean, he's deeply involved, obviously, in his publishing house at the moment.
Exactly.
So I don't see him doing. I can't speak for him, but I don't see him doing really any work for Marvel or DC at the moment. But we'll. I think the answer to the question, Rodney, it was Rodney, I think, is yes. We probably will. It's just a question of what and when. Yeah.
And so here's some of those. You can probably zoom in on that one, Jason, a little bit, see if it, even if it makes it so you have to scroll to see a full page. Yeah, there you go. That looks.
Oh, that's Daredevil 191.
190, I think.
190. Sorry. Yeah. That was a great issue. It was really good. These are, for people who don't know, these are Frank's layouts that he supplied. That is drawn on 8.5 by 11 typing paper. And at the end, the last year that we worked together that way. Mm-hmm. So we went through several different iterations, from very tight pencils with grooves, grooves on the page, to breakdowns where he would draw on the board but not place any blacks. And then we went to this format in the last year where he would write and draw. And what's amazing is you can see that he wrote the dialogue on the 8.5 by 11 paper. And the dialogue was exactly what was printed, which always impressed the crap out of me. So I don't know at what stage, if this came out of him, right away or the first time, or if he worked the dialogue at some point, but it's all there. The whole story is right there on those pages.
That's interesting. I mean, I'm curious if he wrote it in advance or if he just kind of wrote it as he drew it, and that's an interesting approach without question. I mean, typically you wouldn't think of I know the penciler and the inker have to think a lot about word placement but clearly he had it all figured out here. And these, when you think of the loose pencils, we hear about that a lot in the original art, collecting hobby. Which ones have more Frank in them, or which ones have more Klaus in them. I mean, looking at these, I mean, there's a lot there. I look at that and I see his work in like Ronin or something. And just seeing these pencils, it's the work is there. He's putting in what enough to give you the direction to kind of do your thing. And that intro, I'll say, is one of my most favorite intros of any comic.
What, this thing right there?
Yeah,
What
just
sort of
yeah. It was just such an amazing moment, and just so and unexpected. I loved it. I mean, it's one of those things I go back to look at.
Let me just jump in, Bill, and just talk a little bit about how much Frank is on the pages and how much is me. Gil Kane did not give me more than what Frank did.
Mm-hmm.
And no one in the industry or in fandom ever says, oh, this is too much Klaus, or it's not enough Gil. So you have to look at it, I think, from a point of view that, these are what Frank did at that time, and they are as valid pencils as Gil Kane did. You understand what I'm saying, Bill? Right? It's not a which one is more or less. And I'll say this also, and if I'm getting too heady, cut me off. But I think that when Frank and I talk about the work that we did, which is Daredevil and Dark Knight, we both of us say and admit and confirm to each other that we created a third entity. It's not Frank Miller and it's not Klaus Janson. It's a third person that emerged from our teamwork. And I think that's the way I look at it. And I frankly, I wish people would look at it that way too. It's we created a team that emerged from our friendship and collaboration. Yeah. These are, by the way, the original color that I did, and this is how we used to do color back in the caveman days, where of course now everything is digital, but you'd actually get Xeroxes printed out on cheap typing paper and color them with watercolors, with Doc Martens, which is what I would do. And then you'd have to notate it. So like, for instance, on that panel, YRB2 means 100% yellow, 100% red, and 25% blue. And you get that tone. And so all of the tones had to be notated for the separators so they could separate it accurately. It was a very tedious and complicated process that I'm, giving short shrift to. But those are the original colors that I did for that issue 190. Yeah.
Well, color guides have become very collectible in the last few years. Yeah.
Is that right?
Oh yeah.
Okay. Uh-huh.
Yeah, they have. I think we've sold a few.
They can be extremely beautiful. If you really know how to combine colors and get the right tone, they're beautiful. They can be incredibly stunning. Yeah.
Yeah, we actually sold. I was trying to remember, and if the audience will probably remember. We sold a 5-page like Daredevil story. I can't remember from what it was. It was Miller-Jansen, of course, and it was an intro or an outro segment of Daredevil going, into his home and coming out. And I think it was sold. It was on. We did a art sale show with Ed Hannigan, and somehow he had the 5 pages. And I mean, they were gorgeous. They were absolutely gorgeous. And I've seen a few other color guides from that same era, and they are just like the ones we were just looking at. They're fantastic.
Yeah, and they were great fun to do. It was a break from penciling. It was a break from inking. So you get to color and play around with color. It was great fun. I really liked it a lot.
Now, one of the things, I mean, and you're probably aware of this, and that's why I was sort of asking about, looking at Frank's finishes on there and your opinion on it, because, in the OA world, in the collector world, everybody puts more weight and value, at least they'll say openly, on ones where they feel Frank was doing more of the finishes versus the other way around. And I've never prescribed to that. And I think it's in some way the collector mentality to maybe try to get some of those older pages at a fairer price because, Miller didn't touch those pages or whatever, like you just showing, he's working on these smaller pieces, but it's all still Frank. I mean, and so I've never really prescribed to that. And I think it's always kind of, it's a shame, but that I remember when I first started collecting, my goal early on was to get a Miller Daredevil page. I never did, but I remembered that, one of the first people I asked about it, that I said, when's the right time to buy? What era, what issue should I be looking for? And they're like, oh, you got to buy them before, 170, whatever, because after that, Frank's hands aren't on there. And I'm like, but it just never made sense to me as a young collector how that could become kind of part of the thought process. And I think just like what you're just saying there, I mean, you as a team, were like a third person. I mean, those pages shouldn't be less valuable than the earlier ones at all.
I don't disagree. It is what it is, Bill. There's not that much I can do about it. But whatever, it's fine.
Well, before we get, I saw there was one other question, and it was actually tied to Dark Knight. I mean, did you know the importance of that book when you were working on it? Did you feel like it was going to be?
No, there was no. Bill, Dark Knight became, let's say to use your word, important, right?
Mm-hmm.
Became so important, and still, looms so large in the history of comics and its influence that that it was just so big that there's no way anyone could have estimated or predicted how big that became and the longevity of it. I mean, it's been 40 years, right? Or 35 years or something. So there's when you compare the effect that it did have or the impact that it had, how can you predict that? I mean, Frank was on the cover of Time magazine, right? And Rolling Stone, right? I mean, exaggerating, but it was the first book that went to a second printing ever. The first comic book that went to a second printing. And when I heard that really blew my mind because you realize, okay, this was pretty big. And so I certainly wasn't able to, I can't speak for Frank or Jeanette or Dick that, who were there, but I didn't expect that. No, I'm grateful for it. It's made my life better. But no, I couldn't have predicted it. No.
And you guys knew going into it, the change in format to that, prestige type book, you knew going into it was going to be printed like that. So, I mean, that had to be, did that change your way of approaching your work to the book, knowing how it was going to be printed?
I think maybe a little bit, but not that much, because I think the printing was still basically, reproduced the same way. It was collected differently, but the reproduction was, what was what they used at that time. But I think that what I did, get a sense of was that this was an important project to Frank. This was an important project to DC, and that they took very, very good care of it. And the square bound decision that they made in terms of how to publish it was not the initial decision. They went back and forth. There was a lot of discussion. Dick was very, very supportive of this book. I think the initial, and Frank might say something different, but I think my memory of it was that Dick and Frank were in discussions with doing a project at DC, and I think Dick asked Frank if he wanted to do a Batman project. And Frank came up with the idea of an older Batman coming out of retirement. And I think once he came up with that idea, he was able to move on with developing the story.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but the DC supported it very, very much so. And after the first issue came out, it was crazy. So it was, it was ridiculous. It was just nuts.
Were you finished with the book when the first one came out?
God, no.
Yeah, you were.
No.
I had a feeling that wasn't the case.
Yeah, no, we both had other things that we were working on at the time too. If you look at the first one, there's a break where we took almost a year off between pages, and I'm guessing here 20 and 21, somewhere around there. We took a break, and I think the first 20 pages I kind of inked with a brush, and then I went to more of a pen. But those are, that's a little bit in the weeds. But no, we if memory serves me right, I think each one was later and later. And you're safe when they don't care.
Right. Right. Well, the problem was that first book did so well. I'm sure everybody, you had a lot of requests for other work to be done, and I can see how that could impact the publishing schedule of things. It makes a lot of sense. Yes.
Yeah, I totally. Yeah, but they knew and that this was going to be a hit and it was going to sell. And so they weren't worried about the schedule as much as they might be on a normal project, or an average project. Yeah.
There's a lot of other questions out here, but we've been at this for an hour and 20 minutes, and we have art to show off and sell as well. 25 pieces that have never been on the market before because Klaus turned these over to Jason recently. So I feel like we probably should steer ourselves over to that part of the show. We'll be talking about each piece, and there'll be interesting things to talk about there too. But we definitely need to do another one of these, Klaus. There's so much more I think we could talk about if we can make the time sometime in the future.
Oh, thanks. I appreciate you saying that, Bill. This is one of the benefits of being in the business 50 years. I have 50 years worth of stories.
Right. We could do 50 shows. I think it's still not. We do 50 shows and not even talk about all the things that you and Giordano talked about on your rides into town every day.
That's right. Yeah.
So yes, encore.
So next time, Bill. Next time.
Absolutely. Right. Well, there's still more to the show, everybody, because we're going to move into the art sale, and we're going to lots of different periods of your career and different creators to speak about when we look at these artworks. But I'm going to go over the ground rules on the art sale since we have about 180 people watching right now, so a lot more than we're here when we started. So I'm just going to show these slides again to everybody.
And let me just say, Bill, that I'm grateful for everyone being here. So everyone that's here, thank you very much. I appreciate it. Thanks.
Here. And thank you for everybody being here too. Remember to hit the thumbs up, as Nick Barucci has reminded you in the chat a few times. So today the claim process for the artwork that we're going to show will be done via email, not in the chat. So have your email clients ready. And we want you to send an email to Jason, and that's jason@essentialsequential.com. In the subject of the email, it could just be, KJ Art Sale, whatever you like. Just make sure you make a note of that. And in the body of the email, include the lot number and your name. And as you know, throughout the time that we're showing the artwork, I know a lot of you like to keep a pencil and paper nearby. You're making notes on which pieces you may be interested in. You can claim an artwork at any time by emailing Jason. And I know, as I mentioned, I know a lot of people maybe wait halfway through seeing which pieces are offered to decide which ones they want to buy. So you can claim artwork at any time by emailing Jason. Just it doesn't have to be when we've got it on the screen. And I would even tell people who are watching the show after the fact that if something hasn't sold by the end of the show, you're more than welcome to shoot Jason an email and see if it's still available. Because I know we're going to have a lot more viewers of this program by this time tomorrow than are watching it live today. So just bear that in mind, and please reach out to them. You never know. Now the payment
Thanks,
method.
Bill.
Yep, you got it. And payment methods, PayPal and credit card do have a 4% fee added, as is customary in our hobby. But also, if you go the check, money order, or Zelle route, you won't have that extra fee. Then what Jason would like everybody to do, if you've claimed a piece of art, and he'll give you the instructions and the link onto the site to do this, but he'd like you to create an account over at Essential Sequential, because once you have an account, it makes it very easy for him to get the proper shipping amount set up and your tracking links, all of that kind of built into the system. So it really does provide a very seamless purchase environment for you, and it makes it easier for Jason as well. And so that's the process we're going to have you follow if you do claim any of the artworks. And the prices of the artwork do not include shipping. Of course, you can combine on shipping if you win more than one piece. FedEx 2-day prices are $35 for domestic and $50 to $200 international. I mean, most international is probably in that $50 to $70 range, but so we're putting that range in there as well. But bear that in mind. And Jason and I did talk earlier yesterday, actually, and we mentioned that time payments on certain pieces would be available, but those things you would have to work out with Jason. Certainly, it's not something that we would want to see you drag out as part of this show, 60 days. I'm not going to. I'm speaking for Jason now, but in my heart, I'd like to see you get these things done early, because I think it's part of the hobby. We do know a lot of people like to do time payments. It helps purchase pieces that might not be in your sweet spot, but bear that in mind, and that just kind of helps keep things moving along very nicely for us all. So again, Jason at essentialsequential.com is the email address to send your request to, and that email will be on the screen with every slide I show too. But if I were you, if I was a buyer in the audience, I would have everything ready to copy and paste over into your emails just to make it easier, so you have to keep retyping email addresses and those sorts of things. Jason, you good with all that?
Yeah, that sounds great. I appreciate it. If you need time payments, if you guys have asked prior or during the stream, I guess it just depends on the piece. Guys that can pay outright, I guess, get priority. I don't know if that's something that's normal, but we try to make sure everyone's able to get something that they like. Just let me know and we'll try to work it out. Exactly.
And if you miss out, Jason might be able to hook you up after the show with something else that you might enjoy. And let's see, I'm trying to think if there's any other things we really need to cover. Probably not. But if it comes up, we'll just kind of move along with it. But there you go. David Bixler is giving me a compliment too. Jason ships amazingly well and fast. Fast in all caps. That's always important to buyers, to get the artwork in their hands. All right, well then we're going to go ahead and do this. And I would let everybody know that I know sometimes we'll follow low to high on the prices, or in Klaus's, we could have maybe gone era to era, and maybe I should have followed one of those, but I didn't. I actually kind of followed the order that I got the artworks from Jason. So prices are going to be they're not low to high. We're starting in the middle. We move high, we move low. It's going to move all over, as well as the eras. So keep that in mind. And artists that you see at the beginning that Klaus's inked, you're going to see towards the end too. So there's a lot of different collaborative pieces here, but none with Frank, unfortunately, but with a lot of other prominent creators that you worked with over the years. Okay, we'll go ahead and get this thing started. So lot 1 today is from a Nightwing, page 4 from 2018. It's on 11 by 17, and it's priced $1,500. And this is with Chris Mooneyham's pencils. And so a project like this, Chris isn't somebody whom we've mentioned today. What was it like working with his pencils?
I thought he was a really good drawer. I thought he was a really good penciler, and I thought, we spoke a little bit before agreeing to work together, and it was one of those things where we definitely had similar opinions about liking gritty, dark, adventures, and so it was a kind of a good pairing, I thought. And this is a page that I particularly like, and when Jason dug it out of my files, I was really impressed with it. It's a really nice page. Batman looks great on this. So I was very happy with working with Mooneyham. And I lost track of him. I saw him do some Marvel work, but I lost track of him. So I'm not sure what happened to him, but it's good stuff. He's a good artist.
So on something like this, I mean, you did talk about, gritty inks and things. I mean, or did he just know that Klaus is going to put his signature ink style and make me look good? I mean, how much pre-discussion do you guys have for something like that?
I think, I try to be as faithful as I can to the pencils, but I always find some place to do something that's a little bit more, that has a little bit of a larger footprint, so to speak. It could even be the backgrounds or some texture or some spatter or some zipatone. So it really is more or less a teamwork, and I think always is. But in terms of like the really important stuff, the faces, the figures, to a degree, unless they're badly drawn, I try to be faithful to the pencils. Part of the job of an inker is to see where the inker can help the penciler. And it varies from penciler to penciler. Some pencilers are really good with anatomy. Some are not. So those that are not, maybe the inker who might be better with anatomy can help the penciler's anatomy. And I think that's the job of a penciler and an inker team, is where the inker who gets the pages after the penciler, obviously, is able to assist or help or make better, some of the weak points that a penciler may have. And everybody has a weak point. Often more than one. Everybody does. So it's not pejorative to say that about any one penciler, but everybody does, right? Frank does, I do, we all do.
Well, that's why it's a collaborative process, really. I mean, and that's what strengthens it. And this artwork was claimed.
That's right.
I did type that into the chat, but hey, Jason, feel free to interject, give us a guffaw, or it's claimed. It's fine. Or text it in the chat too. I mean, if you don't want to interrupt us while we're talking, but it was a fabulous piece. I didn't think it was going to last till us.
It is. I wouldn't say it if I didn't think so. It is a really nice page. Yeah.
It's in Jason's hand right there. So congratulations to whoever picked up the first piece. You've broken the ice for us on lot number one. I sincerely appreciate that. All right, well, then we'll just move right on to lot number two. And this is a very, very nice piece from Punisher Warzone issue 3, page 18 from 1992. It's on 11 by 17 as well. So lot number two is priced at $2,000. I mean, I can tell you when we were looking at some past sales, the title page DPS to this issue sold for $13,000, not just a few months ago over on Heritage. So a $2,000 price tag on this thing is quite reasonable. It's great action, and it's John Romita Jr., somebody who you've worked with quite a bit.
Yeah, I love John's pencils. We're talking about doing another project, which I hope becomes realized. Should I say what it is?
If you're allowed. If you're not, bite your tongue.
I'm not, and it may never happen, but I will say it. because I think if I say it, maybe it will happen. It will help it to happen. But Ann Nocenti and John and I have, among the three of us, agreed to do a Daredevil project.
Wow.
Now it's up to Marvel.
Right.
That's, we've all agreed to do it. I'm in, John is in, Anne is in, and that's a pretty good team on a pretty good character that we all know and we all love. If it happens, I'd be over the moon. If it doesn't happen, blame Marvel.
Wow, that would be, that'd be incredible. And
I agree. I think it would be awesome. It would really, really be terrific. I agree.
This one's
that piece is sold as well. So I mean, if
by the way, you know what's good about that page, by the way, that Punisher page, is it's lettered and it has the lettering on the board. It's not pasted on, because a lot of that stuff is pasted on. So this is a very clean page. It's well penciled and well inked, but also it looks good. So I admire that about those pages a lot. Yeah. I hate when they paste on the balloons. I really dislike that. It just ruins it for me. But yeah.
If you're New Jersey, we have to charge sales tax. Just as a side note. Sorry.
Okay. Yeah, we didn't write that in the slide. New Jersey residents do have sales tax, but you might be able to save on shipping if you can pick it up. Keep that in mind.
That's true. Sure. Yeah. Come visit Jason.
We'll put you to work scanning art.
He would love that. He would love that.
Yeah. Jason D promised to help scan, but we haven't seen him after I bought him lunch. So,
fair weather scanners. Oh, what are you going to do?
Fair weather scanners.
All right. Well,
you just can't get good scanners these days, right?
Oh boy. Well, we have another John Romita Jr. piece as our third lot, and this is actually a more current piece and one of the more expensive pieces in the set. This is a Punisher King of Killers #1 cover. I mean, just gorgeous. I mean, and fun to see. The fact that, and again, this is $9,500 is lot #3, but just to see the growth or the change between the two of you, from the piece from 1992 to 2022, 30 years have passed between these last two pages, and it's just, you've gotten better. I mean, and it's or different in a way, but it's just so engaging. I love the line work in here.
Thank you.
The character is, the way it's rendered so in your face. I mean, filling the page like that. I mean, there's a lot of really daring things just happening in the composition here.
Yeah, John is, I think that, first of all, this is the first cover, of the new Punisher series that started, I guess, last year, with his new emblem, which you can kind of see underneath the ring. But John is, in spite of all of the accolades that he gets, and he is well loved in terms of his work. His work is well loved. I think it's amazing. I think John is an amazing talent, and at his best, he is really one of the best. It's just really, it's a pleasure to work with him. I got to say, it's great fun. Great fun to work with him. I love, we occasionally will do some commissions together.
Really?
And it's just lovely to be able to revisit, his pencils and ink them. They're terrific. They're wonderful.
That's a real treat for fans if you're getting pencils by John Romita Jr. and then inks by you on a commission. My gosh, I mean that's
and John doesn't hold back, and when I get a piece like that, I don't either. We really just try to do our best. There's no such thing as, doing less because it's a commission or than a cover or anything. It's on the same level. So it's inspirational. I can actually, and I don't think I should, but I could talk about why John is so good, at great length. But trust me, he is.
We have a few other
really
pieces
good.
of his to look at too, Klaus. So by the end of the show, you might actually be able to do that. You should do that as we look, because I think the next piece, that one did not sell.
He's really good. He's really good.
John was another guy when he came in. I had a hard, it took me a little bit to get used to his stuff too. I don't know why, but just, well, I know why, because I was so, in love with like Byrne and Perez, that anybody who was kind of counter to that just didn't fit into my young brain as far as, somebody who should be drawing my X-Men or something. Right. But now, I mean, I own 3 or 4 pages by John Romita Jr. Love his stuff. But again, it's a creator who had it took a little bit of time for me to be like, I like his work. I mean, I love the stories he was working on it, but the art just was always a little different. But now I love him to death.
There are a lot of people, a lot of artists that we don't like as we're growing up. And then Kirby, for me, when I was a kid, I didn't like Kirby, but I kind of do now. I kind of figured out what he's doing, Yeah, well, it's just the way, yeah, it's okay. We still love you, Bill.
Well, we have something in common then. Kirby was another one whose work I was like, why is this old guy still drawing comics? In the 70s. I just knew he had been there for a long time. And I'm thinking, what's he doing here? I want to see John Byrne draw these characters, and then, so I always felt it, but, it didn't take me too long to get it. But even when I saw Gene Colan work, I'd be like, gosh, I don't get this Gene Colan stuff. I love Gene Colan's art now. I mean, I can't buy enough of it. I love it.
Yeah, your tastes develop or evolve,
exactly.
And they change. Yeah, it's
fortunately for me. But hey, so this next piece, and this is also by John Romita Jr. and Klaus. This was at first it was a Maxim ad, and you can see the issue of Maxim is tucked right in the back of Spidey's trousers there. This one is priced $15,000 and is the most expensive piece that we're showing today. This was done in 2009. It's done on 11 by 17, and I believe it was also used as a poster image as well. So it's been published a couple times. But I mean, what fun, right? I mean, regardless of what the cause was, or the reasoning for Maxim wanting this thing put out there. I mean, when you get to draw this many Marvel characters all crammed together, busting through a wall, and this is fantastic. I mean, I'm sure Jason's looking at it right now. I mean, it has to be very impressive to be able to hold it in your hands and actually see it in person.
It's 211 by 17.
Oh, it's 211 by 17. I'm sorry, I apologize on there.
Oh, I see I see it in the middle. Yeah, that was great fun to do. Yeah, there's a lot of. Yeah, John is particularly good at that, at these kind of event. Like World War Hulk. He was amazing on World War Hulk.
Oh my gosh, yeah. And yeah, I was still looking at the wrong information on my printout here as the size. So I apologize. It is a double page spread. Or no, splash. We call it a splash. There's no panels in it.
Bill, you're doing fine. No worries.
I stammer my way through most shows, Klaus. But yeah, it's great. And the thing is that, I mean, I think we're just really fortunate that that you were willing to pull some of these pieces out. I mean, and offer them up. I mean, you got to look at them for a very long time. So I'm just happy that to even see some of these pieces. So.
Well, thanks. Jason is my motivator.
Is that so? So, Jason, you're looking at the DPS, right? I mean, it's pretty spectacular, I imagine.
Yeah, I mean, I was tempted to steal it myself, but I can't take it all. It's it's too expensive of a hobby. So I gotta throw it out. This one's one of my
Jason. Jason always wants a discount.
It's the problem.
It's the friend discount, right?
Yeah, it's also the problem of being an art dealer is getting to look through all the stuff and then wanting to buy all of it. And
that's true.
It's just
you should see Jason's collection. It's amazing.
Klaus's collection is okay. What someone asked what was one of your favorite pieces in your collection, Klaus?
Huh.
That's not by, or it could be.
I'd have to think about it. I don't know. What'd you say, Jason?
Well, it could be by, of your own art or someone else's art.
Huh.
Do you have a favorite piece?
Some of the covers that I did for Death and the Maidens, I really liked. Gothic. I have all of the art for Gothic. I saved that. The project I did with Grant Morrison. So I have the covers and the interiors, and most of the stuff I've penciled and inked, together. I've kept. The only thing I've sold that I've penciled and inked were the first 5 issues of The Punisher, which I regret, of course, but it is what it is. Yeah.
Okay. Fair enough.
Yeah. Some of the Frank pages that I've kept on Daredevil, I've got a couple of those. I'm looking up. They're hanging up on my wall. But we all have our favorites. Yeah.
And yeah, that was the first lot 4. I was double checking. Did I misnumber them? But I see that, no, everything's numbered right. This was lot 4. The prior Punisher cover was lot 3. So let's move on to the next piece here. This is a little different. This is by pencils by Garcia Lopez with Klaus's inks. This is to JLA Classified 18. Issue 18, page 4 from 2006, and it's on 11 by 17. This one's priced at $8.50. So, what was it like working with Garcia Lopez?
It was like coming home. He's just so good. There was no redrawing or helping him with anatomy or anything like that. It was purely which is hard to do also, but it was purely a kind of a decorative approach to inking, just to where do you put the heavy line? Where do you put the light line? What can you accent to give it maybe a little bit of depth? But it's completely all there. There's no there's no arguing, there's no debating about what it needs. It doesn't need anything. It just needs to get ready for reproduction. Yeah. A brilliant artist.
And were his pencils pretty tight, I imagine? I mean, at least that's what I would envision his interior pencils will be.
Yeah, really. It really was all there. Yeah. And tight would be the word. Yeah.
All right. Well, this is a very nice page, and it's lot 5, priced at $8.50. It hasn't gotten claimed yet, so make your notes, everybody. And if you're interested, you can claim it anytime throughout the rest of the show. We'll move on to lot 6, and this is another change of pace. This is from Mr. John Buscema, of course, and this is from an issue of Tarzan, which we don't see a lot of artwork from. I don't think. I didn't check on Calf, but I don't think there's a ton of Tarzan art out there. But this is from issue 14, page 6, 1978. So your first decade in the business. This is priced at $1,250. So again, I've seen John's pencils on a lot of different things. I mean, in this era, were his pencils really tight? Were they more loose?
I think they would probably. I mean, he was into this, right? He was right. He loved drawing things that didn't take place in a city. He loved like Conan and jungles and tents and stuff like that. He didn't like to draw straight lines, which I don't blame him. So I think he was pretty into this, and so I think that, as I remember, the pencils were pretty tight.
You do have.
It looks,
you have John's fingerprints on the back of the art too.
John's fingerprints are on the back of the art.
Yeah, I don't know if you can see it here, but
here I'll hide the art and make you go full screen. Oh yeah, there you go.
That's hilarious.
Other way, there you go.
That is really funny. Okay, maybe we can clone them, but that's hilarious. But the Tarzan was just wonderful to for all the reasons that John liked it. I liked it too. A lot of foliage, a lot of, interesting ways to spot blacks. Yeah. An amazing artist.
I just thought this page was great. Just is very emotional with the the monkey falling out of the tree. It's pretty cool.
It's not
that always gets me too. Monkeys falling out of the tree.
All right. Well, I'll say that one's still available. And I saw a question from Murdoch. Murdoch wanted to know, how long after the show are we allowed to claim? I mean, I don't know about you, Jason, because I know these pieces will probably end up on Essential Sequential sometime in the near future if they don't sell. So, at most 48 hours if for people. That way we give people who are watching the show throughout the rest of the weekend. So if you can't get back to Jason by, I'd say by Monday at noon, the chances of these being put up in whatever other venue that Jason will want to list them for sale, he will. So best to claim during the show if you can, but if you need a little extra time to think about it, or you're coming in late, you're more than welcome to make those, at least try.
Yeah.
Fair to say, right, Jason?
Yeah.
Okay.
That sounds good.
All right. Let's see, what do we got here? Something a little bit more modern. Modern. Okay, it's from 1998, but still, this is from the very memorable Thor run. It's with you and John Romita Jr. This is from issue 5, page 4. So this one's priced at $7.50. You got a great third panel down there at the bottom with Thor flying over the city. I mean, I'm a big Thor fan, so I loved when you both were working on this book.
And it's signed both, obviously by John and Klaus.
Yes.
I think that, when John and I talk, when we have the occasion to talk and just comics, just basically BS, but we seem to agree, and although I'm sure it changes, that Thor was our best project. I kind of argue a little bit. I think maybe Wolverine might have been, but the Thor was really solid, and John was very, very, very into it, which is just inspiring to the inker, of course. But yeah, we often think, Thor might have been our best work together. Yeah.
Understandably so. I mean, it was one of my, favorite Thor runs out there, along with Simonson's work. I mean, it's just great, and it kind of came out of nowhere. wasn't expecting it. I mean, maybe it was publicized in Wizard a bunch or something back in the day, but it was just happy to see the book come out like that, and I loved it. So yeah,
thanks.
Thank you. You made my day.
Thank you.
All right, let's get to the next one. Keep moving along.
Yep. So that was lot 7, still available. Now, next up, we have a little bit of a different piece here. This is from the trade paperback cover to the gray area from 2013. So this is lot 8, priced at $2,500. And again, John Romita Jr., your partner in crime on this one as well.
So this one, we're not sure where it's been published.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So it says trade paperback. I've looked. That's one of the reasons why we priced it a little bit lower than the normal cover.
Okay.
Because we can't seem to find where it's been published. But it is all original, John and Klaus.
I think, if I'm not mistaken, I saw a little Instagram post by John a couple days ago advertising the gray area. So John has often mentioned that he wants to get back to it and finish it up. So that might have been the announcement. I'm not sure. But there was like a little video attached to the post. So maybe John is actually getting to the point where he's doing something with this property again.
Very good.
I hope so.
Yeah, that's cool stuff.
Yeah, I agree. It was good.
Anybody in the chat who has time to dig around and let us know if they can find it, please do. So, all right. So this one's at 2,500, lot 8, and we can go ahead and take a look at lot 9. This is a piece that you worked on with Tom Lyle. This is from Spider-Man issue 49, page 14, again, 1994. So we can do these this is your third decade in the business. It's priced $950. It's got, a great image of Spidey in the first two panels. And, well, pretty much he's in every panel, but coming at you with the action lines. I mean, so this is a very nice page.
Yeah, you got your thwip. What else? What else can you need?
That is very, very true.
It's also signed by Tom on the back. So Tom and Klaus both signed it on the back of the art. And number 9 has been claimed.
Oh, fantastic! Oh, we can just listen for the bing when you get an email, right?
Yeah. Sorry.
I think it was the thwip that did it.
Oh man, well, yeah. Who doesn't? I mean, if you're going to get a Spider-Man, it's got to have that. It's like Cap. You got to have a Cap throwing his shield, right? I mean, that's if you want a great Cap page, it's got to have that, or Thor throwing the hammer.
That's right. That is true.
All right. Well, congratulations. I guess a few people might have wanted this page, but congrats to whoever picked this one up. We sincerely appreciate it. So we'll keep this thing rolling. We can go over to lot number 10. And this is priced at $500 from Silver Surfer Annual number 1 from 1997, and this one's on 11 by 17. It's page 31 from that book. Val, really nice pencil page by Val, and with the Klaus inks on it. And you get Silver Surfer from who is always popular. I mean, he's a hot commodity in the OA market always. But I mean, how often did you get to draw Silver Surfer, Klaus?
Oh, not enough. I would love to do a Silver Surfer project. I would love to pencil and ink them. This annual, this story turned out really, really nice. We made a surprisingly good pairing, and this was the only time the two of us worked together. So it was just it was a surprise to me how well we gelled and how good the end result looked like. So this is I have fond memories about this project, this annual.
I like this work, and I picked it just because from the 90s you have your 9 Inch Nails T-shirt, and I just thought that was kind of fun.
I didn't even notice that. Wow. But well, that's too bad. See, so this is a creator you didn't get to work, or pencil you didn't get to work enough with, because that was a question earlier too of either people you didn't get to work with or didn't get to work enough with. Val would have been on that list.
Yeah, I think this was just a wonderful job. It was a good story. It just looked really, really good. A lot of texture, a lot of line work, and I think about those, people ask, well, who would you have liked to work on that you didn't? I think about Ross Andrew. I think we would have made a good pairing. But I've been really lucky enough to work with a lot of good people.
All right.
That's been claimed, by the way.
Oh, fantastic. I'll mark that one off as claimed. Congrats to the buyer on that one. All right. Well, let's move on.
You got a good page.
Yeah. No, well, and the thing is, there's got to be a few other ones around, right? But let's look at lot 11 next. And there's a very nice Mighty Thor page from 1998. This is lot 11, priced at $600. You get plenty of Thor on this one and every panel. And wow, this is with Eric Larson too. So you're definitely seeing how you're penciler to penciler, you're really kind of working your style of inking into theirs to kind of make it something uniquely your own, a collaboration with them in this piece. This is great. And it's got some zip on it too.
Yeah, it's got some zip on it. Eric has been a big supporter of my work, and I very much appreciate it. And I really appreciate it. But the work that he and I did together was, I loved it. I loved working with Eric. I loved inking his pencils, and I hope it shows. He's really fun to ink. He's a very fun penciler. It's enjoyable, it's not drudgery. It's really, It's like having a party.
That's great. Well, he is definitely. I mean, as far as creators go, I mean, he's prolific and very style. And,
amazing.
And I can see why you would call it that. It's like a party. We're getting to work on his artwork. That's.
Yeah. No, he's just fun. I don't know. I'm sure we haven't had any, deep discussions. I'm sure he takes what he does very seriously.
Mm-hmm.
But the work he produces is fun. Even Savage Dragon, it's a very fun book, to read.
And this one's got a lot of zipatone throughout each panel.
Say that again, Jason?
There's a lot of zipatone and texture.
And you mention it because
we don't see it nowadays on the art, right? It's not something.
Oh, yeah.
Everybody does it digitally now.
It's all digital.
Yeah.
That's the amazing thing about these older pages, the pre-digital pages, is that, the art that you have is the art that's reproduced. Digital, of course, is not at all that.
Quite true. And so that one was claimed, right, Jason? I keep hearing the pings going on.
Yeah, that's been claimed.
I think a few people really wanted to get that piece. So congrats to the buyer on that one. And I saw Robert asking, it's been answered. There are 25 pieces in total today, so we're almost halfway through. We can take a look at lot number 12 next here. And I know somebody was asking for some Sal work, and here is a piece. This is from Mighty Thor Annual 6. It's page 23 from 1977, priced at $2,000. So this is, again, a first decade piece for Klaus.
That one's all claimed.
Wow. Well, there you have that one. So that one has been claimed rather quickly, and it should be. I mean, come on. This is early in your career, Klaus, and a nice piece with Sal. I mean, even without
nice page, yeah, that's a good page.
I mean, it's gorgeous.
Yeah, a lot of these pages I haven't seen because Jason just picks them out, and I'm surprised. But this is a nice page. My first big hit might have been Defenders with Sal in the early 70s after I inked Black Panther over a couple of different people. But Sal and I think, rode the wave for a decent amount of time. I forget, maybe a year and a half, maybe 2 years even. And I started coloring the Defenders. But Sal is one of the few people that I've inked, and he's also inked me.
Oh, that's pretty unique.
Yeah, it is. I agree. That doesn't happen that often.
Do you have a favorite inker that works over your pencils?
I would have to say, I think Tom Palmer is just, one of my favorite inkers. So he can never do anything wrong. But I think Tom Palmer. Dick Giordano has inked a panel or two of mine, which has been wonderful. Sienkiewicz inked Daredevil End of Days and did an amazing job. Yeah. I was actually, it's funny, Bill and I go back, way back. And I've always been, incredibly impressed by his work, which I don't see how anybody cannot be. But the work that he did on End of Days, it was of such a high caliber that it still surprised me that how good it was. My hat's off to Bill. Amazing.
He's okay.
And we talk about doing something together too every time we see each other. But how these
Only
things go.
so much time in the day, but yeah.
Yeah, I was going to say I didn't want to use that cliche, but yes, there is.
Bill's a guy who's inked a lot of people as well. I think he's very versatile on both sides, whether he's doing all the artwork or his work with Dennis Cowan is it's fantastic.
He loved inking Jim Aparo.
Oh, really? I didn't know that.
I did too. Yeah, I've inked maybe like 5 or 6 images, trading cards or something over Jim, and a Green Lantern story. Some maybe 1 or 2 more, but wonderful stuff. Wonderful, juicy, great line. wonderful to ink.
And my prescriptions are ready, so everyone can know.
What'd you say, Jason? I'm sorry.
That last thing was my prescription being ready, not a
Oh.
But I could say there is a Defenders page later in the show.
All right, let's get to it. Come on.
Yeah. So this next piece is an unpublished piece, but a very unique one, and I think the most affordable piece in all of the lots we're offering here. The Masters of the Universe piece. All Klaus on this one, all pencils by
Jason.
But it is it is unpublished, of course. But again, if you're a fan of Masters of the Universe, here's your chance to own a piece by Klaus. Rare opportunity here.
What year was this? This was a long time ago. The script was by Mike Carlin. And we were doing this for DC, I think, at that moment. We did I think we did maybe 5 or 6 pages like this, and then for whatever reason we stopped or whatever.
That's been claimed.
Hey.
Huh.
There are some Masters of the Universe fans out there. I knew it.
Want to have something a little interesting, a little different, right?
Right.
You have a wide reach, Bill.
We do. Well, the only thing we can't sell around here is Aquaman art. I don't know why there's a stigma with Aquaman art. So, and I don't think we brought any tonight, so we don't have to worry about that. But I don't know why. It's the only.
Stay clear of it. So
exactly, as it just doesn't sell here. I don't know why, but we've got a lot 14 coming up here, and I'll just highlight it right now. It's by Terry Dodson and Klaus. This is lot 14, priced at $1,000. It's from X-Men Chronicles, issue 1, page 46, 1995. Everyone, I mean, this is it's a gorgeous page. 28 years old now. And did you get to work a lot with Terry at all?
I think this might be the only thing that we've done together. Yeah, but it was I would say it was a lot of fun. And that's a nice page. Jason, you picked out a nice page.
Yeah, these all I think were really well done with you and Terry.
That's a good one.
We've been slow, we had a few pages that we slowly been selling over the last year or so.
Yeah.
Yeah, just kind of a cool story. Magneto's a badass. So
I know.
What else could you like? What else could you want?
It's one of those pages that sort of, it tells the whole story just by itself, or it tells a story by itself, right?
And
that's been claimed, by the way.
Okay.
As well, it should have been. Yeah, an Age of Apocalypse tie-in. Zipatone on this one, but again, it's I love it. I love this page, and of course, lettering on the page. Back to that too, Klaus.
That's
true. We as collectors love the lettering on the page, not word balloons. We'll take word balloons too, because at the end of the day, we want it that way. But there's a few collectors who print their own acetate word balloons so that they can get the full experience of the modern art, right? Because
but those
storytelling,
nothing beats the pages with the balloons, on them. That's just the best.
I'd say 99% of the OA hobby would completely agree with you. Let's see. Moving over to lot 15 now. Let's see. Let me highlight that. This is all you, and it's from Detective Annual 10, page 30 from 1997 on 11 by 17. This one's priced at $1,000, and I love the silhouette. I mean, if any character was meant to be drawn in silhouette, it's the Dark Knight, right? So this is.
I think, Jace, I think this is Sal Buscema pencils.
Is it Sal? Because I got it with nothing on it, with only you.
Yeah, I see it listed as only me, but I believe it's Sal Buscema pencils.
That's Detective.
Yeah.
I think we can blame Lampert for that one.
Well, we that poor guy, we're blaming him for everything.
Make him scan twice as many pieces of art the next time he's over at your place.
But that, you don't see a Sal Buscema Batman that often, I'll tell you.
No, not at all.
Yeah. That's a good page. Look at that down shot on the first panel. That's awesome.
That's been claimed, by the way.
And have you gone to like comics.org to confirm the
I'll
sal?
just take another look.
Well, we won't throw Lambert under the bus. He does a lot of good in the hobby, and for you.
Yeah, that's okay. We love it.
See, there.
We do love him, but we can also throw him under the bus too at the same time.
Well,
you know.
Next time you guys are at a con together, just make him do an extra food run or something while he's. Oh, but no, fantastic page. I mean, it's
Jason works him hard enough. Don't worry.
That's okay. So it's Sal. So it's a Sal. Derek confirmed it's Sal.
there you go.
Oh, it is. Okay, very good. Yeah.
Quick question.
So
on this
that's
one.
so I guess we have to double the price, right?
Yeah. Oh.
Well, you have to take it out of
Kidding.
somebody's salary.
All right, there's a question by Chris.
Yeah, I want to know about the white media. Is it razor blade scraping, or are you
Right.
actually using a bit of medium here?
On this page specifically, Chris, I can see that it's razor blade. Yeah, on the silhouettes, it is razor blade. Probably on some of the roof too. But I use both. But this looks mostly razor blade. Yeah.
Cool. Very old school. I know Ramita Senior did a lot of work with razor blade.
He does, yeah. And you know, it's a strange thing to say, but he's better at it than I am.
You know,
there's a trick to it, right? You know.
there has to be, but there's also you gotta have the eye for it. I mean, you're taking away from something you just inked. I get scared to death to go in there.
Yeah, that's right.
Like that.
Yeah. Yeah, there's a trick to it, and it is tricky. Yeah, because you're basically tearing the page, you know. So
right.
You really gotta, you know what you're doing. Yeah.
Right. All right. Well, we're moving on to lot 16 here. This is a collaboration with Steve Epting, and this is a Weapon X Team 7 page. It's from issue 1, page 8 from 1997, just priced at $500. And I've always loved Epting's work, and this is a really, really nice page. I love, you know, I always love great panel layouts and characters and things breaking, you know, the panel design, and so that last panel, or you know, half splash, if you will. I mean, breaking into there.
Yeah, it looks really good. I agree with you. That would look, you know, really good on someone's wall. You know what I mean?
It would.
It would. It just would. It's just one of those. It comes right out at you. You know, it does. That's funny. And that's also, you know, to answer or pick up on the question that Derek had. There's some dry brush in that last panel, some spatter, and maybe some razor blade. You know, on the guy's leg.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. So we stop at nothing, right?
Right. No.
Put everything we can would throw in.
Well, and as I did hear Jason say, this one's been claimed, so congratulations to the buyer on that one. A really, really nice piece. Now this one says it's all you too, so I hope we don't get into trouble with this one either. But
let's see.
That is lot 17, priced at $6,500.
Yeah, no, that is me.
This is all you. All right. So Batman Toyman Volume 1, issue 4 cover from 1999. And we got a lot of bricks on this one. We talk about bricks a lot here.
We got a lot of bricks on this.
And a lot of dolls on this one. So tell me about this one. So, you know, this is, you know, what, you're 24 years ago. So we can say it's the middle of your career. I mean, so did they, you know, you approached and said, we want you to pencil and ink this. Is that, how do they solicit you for this?
You know, I don't remember. I'm thinking that this is probably my idea. And, you know, they had a Toyman story, obviously. And I probably did a couple of sketches, and that was one of them. And they liked this one, and I liked this one too. I would have colored it differently if I remember correctly. I would have knocked out all of the dolls, you know, in one color and just made Batman and the Kid push forward. But it worked out pretty well. I mean, it's a, you know, classically composed cover, right? It's the square, the rectangle of the window, the triangle shape of Batman and the Kid. So it's got all of the ingredients to, all the stuff that we learned, or I learned doing this. Yeah. Those dolls are horrifying.
They are. Mike in the
Yeah,
chat.
I'm looking at them. It's like creepy.
This is a little Alex Toth like in it, and yeah, definitely can see it, in the dolls for sure. But yeah, I mean, I can't picture how it was colored in the published version. But yeah, I would like to think that having those dolls be in the dark would make them even more frightening. I mean, just
sorry to interrupt. Some of the bricks on the right-hand side were pasted on, I guess, to get to the gutter. So there's a paste up on the side.
I see.
Okay.
Right of the window there.
Yep.
I might have had the wrong dimension to the cover or something.
Well, it's a gorgeous piece, priced $6,500, and it has not been claimed yet. So we will see that one when we recap everything right at the end of the show. But gorgeous piece, and all Klaus on this one. Certified all Klaus on this one.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, I like that cover. It's good.
Yeah. Let's see. Lot 18 is our next one here, and this is a DPS with pencils by John McCrae, and this is from Hulk Smash issue 4, pages 14 and 15. And Hulk is smashing plenty of things in this DPS.
Now, also, you have to make sure there's another paste up of the Hulk, which is original, but it is a paste up because I'm assuming there was an error.
Yeah, the paste up was done by John.
Oh, really? Okay. Did I get that?
Yeah, I think John and I have never talked about it, but I think he hated my inks on the book, and so he did a paste up on this page. Yeah.
And that's
the original, Jason. You can show us.
Yeah. Give me 1 second. That's been claimed. I was just gonna send the note to the lucky winner, and I'll show you in 2 seconds. Okay. Yeah.
All right. Here, let me go this way and go that way.
Yeah. Still looks good.
Yeah, it's original, but it's a paste on.
Over the other original.
Yeah. That's right.
Yeah.
Right? Over the other original, right?
Correct.
Over that.
Yeah, because the rest of the page the top part is my inks. Yeah.
Yeah. So it is a 2-page spread. We just have it in individual pieces.
Okay. Okay, cool.
So what's it like not knowing which pages from a book you're going to get back when they split it up? Do you ever agonize saying, I hope I'm going to get that page from the book, and then you don't get it?
All the time.
All the time? I'd have to believe that's the case. There's like certain pages you really wish you're going to get back.
They solved that problem.
Yeah.
By I think it might have been one of the companies solved that problem, maybe both of them, DC and Marvel, where but sometimes you make a deal with the penciler, you one-on-one, and ultimately that's the deciding factor. Mm-hmm. So I think John Jr. and I will do. I'll take the first third, and he takes the second third. Okay. So it'll be the first 7 or the last 7. So you do know that they're at least in sequence. Mm-hmm. So there isn't somebody deciding, oh, I like this page, I'll pick this one out. So right. Because it's fair. You have to have some sort of a system that allows both parties, the penciler and the inker, to get a fair shake in terms of the art returns. Yeah.
Well, that's good. I mean, leaving it up to the guy at the mailroom to separate them is probably
yeah, that's right. Yeah, I think that would be, that would be corrupt.
Yeah. So there was a question. I know Jason's already answered it. Sano had asked about the option to pick up at a con if that was out there, and Jason let them know that possibly, as long as it's not that far off. So keep that in mind. Yes, it's possible, but we don't want to wait till like San Diego Comic-Con or anything. We probably want to
Right,
get taken care of sooner, even before Heroes, before anything in the spring. All right, well, let's take a look at lot 19 now. And swing over to that screen here. So here is a John Buscema Klaus piece. This is from Marvel Comics Presents issue 1, number 5, page number 5. This one's priced at $3,500. And, you know, it's a great page. I love this. Love the action on this one. It looks like it had to be a lot of fun to work on this page. I mean, it has a little Indiana Jones feel to it too, but yeah, I love it. I love it. Just again, talk a little bit more about working with John, I guess.
Well, that's an extremely classic John Buscema page. You know, every panel is just really what John is. You know, the second to the last panel, right? That's a classic John Buscema. Characters running toward the camera, or even the last panel, right? The way he designed the buildings in the background, or the panel above that, panel 4. You know, the smashing panel, where it's a Kirby trick where half of the body disappears, you know, and it's just blast lines, because his torso in panel 4 and his head are gone, right? It's just the effect of the punch, and that's something that I think Buscema lifted from Kirby. So it's a very, very classic. You know, you introduce the character in panel 1, you see the secondary characters in panel 2. They have a conflict in panel 3 and 4. The gang, you know, approaches in panel 5, and panel 6. Wolverine still wins. So it's one of those pages that, you know, tell a story from panel 1 to panel 6, contained within itself.
It's the
I like it. I like it a lot. It's very solid.
It's a perfect example of drawing comics the Marvel way by the guy who drew the book,
Yeah,
right? I
that's
mean,
right.
wow.
And what I like about it, it's not that hairy. It's pretty solid. You know, not a lot of gray. It's pretty solid black and white. It's good. It's a good page.
And that's been claimed.
Fantastic.
Well, that's a very good purchase, I gotta say.
Yeah, I mean, a good example by both Klaus and John on this one.
Yeah. It really. I agree. That really works. Yeah.
And, you know, and that's why I love doing these shows, because you kind of, that's a narrative that I wouldn't have put on it, but you were able to kind of walk us through why that page is so special, you know, and it's John's storytelling, it's the writing that went into it too, but that's what getting your expertise, you know, what makes it even a special page to you is, you know, makes these opportunities that we're doing today even all the more special to get your insight into the artworks that we're showing.
Well, I appreciate you saying that, Bill. Thanks.
Well, and Dondeg mentioned, he said, I want to express my thanks and appreciation to you for this wonderful interview. So I think everybody in the chat feels that same way.
Thank you. Thank you, sir. I assume you are a sir. Thank you.
And we got 6 more pieces to look at here. Lot 20 is our next one. And this is another one that should make some X fans happy. But here we go with that. This is from Gambit issue 4, Lee Weeks, one of my an artist who I really, really love. And so again, this is with Klaus's inks. It's lot 20, priced at $2,500. I mean, Lee Weeks is he seems he gets better with age too. I mean, I like his work more and more, you know, even to this day. But you know, this is a really fun page, well laid out. Panel construction is great. I love the use of the heavy blacks. It's the thing that kind of frames all the panels. I think, you know, in this case, it really does, you know, accentuate the storytelling.
Jason, I'm sorry, Jason. This is oversized, is it not?
I was just about to say when you had a break. This one's a bigger oversized page.
I apologize. I didn't put that on the slide. This is 20 by 13 3/4. So that's
yeah, because Lee did the, I think it was a four issue mini, and he did all of the pages with the dimensions that they used to do before they went to 12 by 17. So it's larger than 12 by 17, which makes it very unusual, I think.
It's a little extra work, but you get to put more details in it too.
Lee is amazing. He's just incredible. Yeah.
Well, it's
Good stuff.
It's gorgeous and has not been claimed yet. I haven't heard any dings over there from Jason's office, but very nice piece from Gambit issue 4. So early in that book's run. And I'm not familiar. I don't recall the character full of arrows there, but pivotal moment, I think, right? All right, so we'll move on to lot 21 next, and this is another new creator that you worked with here. It's that we're showing today, Scott Eaton. This is from Black Panther issue 18, page 9 from 2006. We've got this one priced very affordably at $250. So if you're interested in this one, shoot Jason an email at jason@essentialsequential.com. Get the Watcher on here, prominent.
Yeah, apparently it's like the first time the Watcher, well, not the first time, but he intervenes with the wedding of Black Panther and Storm.
Is that Blade in the second panel?
I think that's that's Blade. And this one's been claimed for 21. Oh, hold on. Let's
lots of emails on that one. I see Doctor Strange in there. Oh, you got the Thing too, and Reed. Gosh.
Oh yeah, I see them. Yeah.
There's a lot of characters.
Scott is a very, very good penciler. I really enjoyed working with him on Black Panther. I will say that his I don't know how to say, the one criticism that I have about Scott is that he puts everything into every panel. It's it really is amazing, his ability to cram as much information and detail and figures and backgrounds into everything. He does not hold back, which is good. I admire that.
Well, congrats to the person who picked that one up. It's another great page. This next one, 49 years old, everybody. This is, and it's not the Defenders page, so don't get your itchy trigger fingers going there, but get them, because to me this is a really cool page. Definitely a piece of a memorable artwork for me from because I was a big horror fan growing up, and I loved pretty much all the titles with this character in it back in the day, and so I'll show it right now. This is lot 22, priced at $5,000, but this is a John Buscema, Klaus Janson, Giant Size Man Thing, issue 2 splash page with about as big a version or image of Man Thing as you're going to get in a comic. It's page 36. Just a stunning page. The breaking glass. I mean, the composition of this page alone is just wonderful and dramatic. The use of blacks around the glass. I mean, I love this page.
This was the first time that I inked John, I think.
Really? Wow.
I think so, yeah.
That's
I believe so.
To me, that was a no-brainer, everybody. That one had to go, because it's just gorgeous. I mean, it has everything that you want in a Buscema piece and a Marvel horror piece from this period.
Yeah.
And you get Klaus's inks on it as well. Potentially first time. Wow. Well, I don't have anything else. It's just, I mean, when I saw this one, my jaw dropped, because this is my sweet spot. My nostalgia is mostly 70s and early 80s work. So congrats to whoever got this. If you have a CAF gallery, I sincerely hope it ends up on CAF so you can share it with everybody, because it's a beauty and a wonderful piece of comic history right there. Let's see. This one's actually swinging back to a creator that we showed earlier today. This is another Chris Mooneyham piece. This is from Nightwing issue 50, page 29 from 2018. Priced, again, affordable price, $450. You get a lot of nice Nightwing action on this page. A great cityscape in the background.
Yeah, this is, I would say, Bill, this is an example of what I was talking about before, about, how slick and tight I can be. I mean, this isn't a particularly gritty page, right? There's no spatter. There's no, rough line. It's pretty slick. I mean, do you disagree, Bill, or what do you think?
No, there's a lot of things about this page I like. Again, the panel layout is really unique. I love that you frame the upper left-hand corner with a girder or whatever that is. I mean, it just helps draw you, it helps pull you in and really make that first panel all the more unique and dynamic. And again, it just frames the page really well. There's a lot to really enjoy about this piece. The birds as well. I mean, there's that panel, the lower left-hand panel. I mean, pitched at the same angle as the top panel as well, but it just adds to your, you can actually feel him moving through the city, the way the panels are structured, and the angles of perspective that Chris put on this piece. It's amazing.
Good point about that second panel.
Yeah, it almost makes the piece as wonderful as that first one is. But again, this is why we love sequential storytelling, is pages like this one. Is this one still available, Jason?
Sorry, that's been claimed.
I heard the pings, but I thought maybe another prescription had been filled, possibly. Or your dog has learned how to email you when it needs a walk. Oh, boy. Well, we've got 2 more pieces to look at, and then we'll recap the few pieces that didn't sell after we look at these 2. This next one, I think a lot of people will probably be interested in. This is lot 24, priced at $3,000, and it is a Defenders 13 page. And you've got all the characters you'd want on a Defenders 13 page. So there's page 14 from 1974, 49 years old, and Sal's pencils too, everybody. I mean, and the disco costume, right? I mean, there's not many pages of art with that uniform on Subby. But wow,
that's been claimed.
Yeah, that's kind of an amazing page, actually.
That's getting a lot of attention.
There's a lot of Defenders out there, Klaus. And see, you talked about it earlier. Defenders was really where you felt you made your mark, and I think that that means a lot even to us as art collectors. I mean, we love the art, but we love the stories that go behind the pieces and the importance of these pieces to the creators too. I mean, knowing after you said that, it was like, oh, I wish I could buy that page, because those are important stories to us. So whoever is the lucky guy or gal that bought this piece is always going to remember that this was an important piece for you. Again, it's 49 years old and right at the start of your career.
Yeah, it really was. I think, if I'm not mistaken, I think Steve Gerber was the writer on this, who is also, someone worthy of remembering.
Without question.
Yeah.
Wow.
We worked together also on Howard the Duck with Gene Colan, which was great fun.
Yeah. Gerber made the 70s a lot more interesting for all of us.
I agree.
We're fans of comics, that is for sure.
I totally agree. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Well, congrats to whomever got that, and I want to see that one on CAF too, everybody. So we only have one more piece to show off before we swing back and do a recap on what didn't sell. So this one's lot 25. I'll highlight this one for you. This is with Rich Burnett. This is priced at $800 from Shadow of the Bat 55, page 19 from 1996. 27 years old. Just again, a very fun, dynamic page layout on it, and was this one of the only times you worked with Rich, or did you have other opportunities?
I think we did this, and we did DC released a 10-cent book, a Batman adventure for 10 cents. I think we did that.
Okay.
Yeah.
And that's been claimed?
Fantastic.
He's good too.
I like that top panel. That's why I picked this one.
Yeah, it's very nice. Yeah. You know who else is really good and fun to ink that reminds me of Burnett?
Who's
is Sean Phillips. We did some work together on, I think it was called Kingpin, where I inked him. Great stuff. I really loved inking Sean.
Sean is a fantastic storyteller. isn't he? I mean, he's
He is. Yeah.
I love his work, and very prolific guy, and he knows kind of his sweet spot, right? I mean, I liked him in Marvel Zombies, but I prefer him working on noirish
Yeah.
stories, right? I mean, it's just
I think he and Brubaker have kind of cornered the market on that.
oh yeah,
And it's wonderful work. I look forward to their graphic novels all the time. Wonderful stuff.
agreed. Well, we made it through the 25. It's 2.5 hours, so it was a little longer than we were expecting, Klaus. But I'm going to run through the pieces that didn't sell. And yeah, well, I guess I didn't see the question. Oh, is there Knights of Old wanted to know about how things were claimed today. It was all done via email, Knights of Old. So if there were pieces here that I show in the recap, it does show on each slide. It says email jason@essentialsequential.com. so that you can make your claim today. First email that he receives for each piece is the one that gets the artwork. I don't know what the count is on sale, pieces sold versus not, but we'll walk through the recap to show you the pieces that are still available. And anyone is more than welcome to claim these as we show them now. And after the show as well, hit Jason up. You never know if it'll still be available, but 48 hours or it definitely will end up on the site or someplace else. So here, let me go through the few pieces here that we didn't sell. First up is lot 3. That was the Punisher King of Killers issue 1 cover that relaunched the Punisher books. This was priced at $9,500. John Romita Jr. pencils on this one. Just great composition, in your face, pushing it past the edges, and which makes this image really fun, right? I mean, a lot of times we focus so much on characters and this one, it's just you're not allowed to forget or look past Punisher in this. So it's a great image, and again, priced at $9,500. Time payments are available. Just you can make a claim with Jason and work those details out with him, and as long as Klaus agrees, you can make that work. So this piece is still available. Let's see, the next piece was that Maxim piece that was in the Maxim magazine as an advertisement. It was also made into a poster, and more than likely at least something else, I'm sure. But just a fantastic DPS double-page splash on this one. It's 22 by 17, just gorgeous piece of art. Surprisingly, the Garcia Lopez artwork is still available as well. This is lot 5, priced at $850. This is from that JLA Classified 18 book, page 4 from 2006. That one's done on 11 by 17. Just great characterizations, and these, the facial expressions, just lovely. Just a great work of art. Let's see. Let's go to lot 6 next. That was the John Buscema Tarzan page. So again, these don't come to market too often. Tarzan's not on it, but you get the apes. They're talking. You know what they're saying, and it's a sad ending there with the little ape falling down. But this one priced at $1250. Again, first decade piece for Klaus in 1978.
Hey, Bill.
Yes.
Robert wanted to change. After we talked about the Hulk having the paste up, he wanted to switch that to get the to claim the Gambit.
Oh, okay. So we can. All right. So that was. We'll show lot 14 again, and the Gambit one was lot 20. So lot 20 is claimed now. Okay.
Yep.
Not a problem, Robert. That is perfectly fine. Awesome. But so lot 6 is still available as well at $1250. John Buscema pencils, Klaus's inks, and let's see. Next up, lot 7. That was the Thor piece from issue 5. It's page 4 from 1998. John Romita Jr. pencils on this one. Great image of Thor there in the last panel, flying over the city, and again, one of my favorite runs on Thor. I mean, I put it right alongside Walt Simonson because it was really that fun a story, and the artwork was fantastic. So again, lot 7 still available at $750. Now the next one was that the Gray Area trade paperback cover from 2013. Unsure whether or not for sure if it was published. This was the Glenn Brunswick pens written book, I believe. I think somebody also mentioned that in the chat. So this one's priced at $2,500 for lot 8. And let's see, 9, 10, 11, 12, we've got a lot of sales in a row here. So next up will be lot 17. This was the all Klaus piece from Toyman Volume 1, Issue 4 from 1999. Lots of great stuff here. The bricks just to the right of the window are a paste up, probably kind of lifted from the left side of the window. Moved it over there so it fit the proportions for the comic. But wonderful image here. Somebody in the chat mentioned very Toth-esque. You can see it a little bit there in this piece as well. And lots of bricks, everybody. We do love our bricks around here.
Lots of bricks.
And again, priced at $6,500. Now we can show that Hulk piece again, because now we have a little bit more information. The original inked version of the Hulk is under this, but there's a paste up that was inked by John that is of the Hulk that we see here. So, and we did show the piece earlier, but if you're interested in this, it is a DPS. It's priced at $750 from Hulk Smash issue 4. And, for whatever the reasoning, it doesn't detract from the piece whatsoever. I mean, I think it's always important. We always like to know if the if the original art's underneath it and everything. And we're not even talking about a stat here, everybody. It's an original on top of the art. So this is again priced at $750, and it's lot 18.
Okay, 18 was claimed.
All right, I can go back and mark that one as claimed. And actually, that's the last one because 2021 through all the other ones did sell. So not many pieces left unclaimed. So we did okay. And a reminder to everybody: if there's pieces that you saw here that didn't get claimed, please shoot Jason an email, and he'll be monitoring his email throughout the weekend while he's not walking the dog or getting his prescription.
Priorities, man.
I get it. But I'll tell you, this was a whole lot of fun class.
Thanks, Bill.
I really enjoyed this, and we do have.
So you know what I'd like to do, if you don't mind.
Sure.
Ask the audience if there's one more question.
Okay, and we did get one question here. Jason wanted to show the Maxim page again, so let me go ahead and.
Oh, sure.
That was lot 4. There you go.
And hey, Bill, can
Yes.
I ask whomever claimed something that received a thank you claim just to re-email me, hey, I won this lot, here's my information, and that way I'll be able to create all the orders in a bit of a more organized fashion?
Sure. And you're going to direct all the people who did get the winning claims to go back to your site to create an account if they don't already have one.
Right.
So that you can get them their proper invoices and whatnot.
Yeah, because there's a few guys that won a few pieces. So instead of digging through all the emails, if you've won something, just toss me a line with what it was, and I'll get it all packed up this week and out the door for you.
Got it. All right. And so there you go, Jason. You got to see lot 4 again. If you're thinking about it, you got a little bit of time to figure it out if you want. I did see a question. We'll go ahead and highlight this one because Henry has asked probably 4 or 5 questions, and I didn't have the right opportunity to highlight any of them. So we'll highlight his last one, where he says, "Did you enjoy inking Rich Buckler's Deathlock? Your inks were great on that." Joseph said that inking Rich was fun. Half John Buscema, half Jack Kirby.
Henry, that's exactly right. That it was half Buscema and half Kirby, and you never knew which one you were going to get. that was the fun part about it, because Buckler, Rich would absolutely, use both of them as inspiration, let's say, or reference. And it depended totally on what he was looking at that day, but it was a lot of fun to ink. I agree. And I think that might have been the first job that I was coloring, because the separators who actually had to separate my guides complained that I was doing too much, which, that's just the way it is, right? But yeah, that was a lot of fun. I learned a lot from working with Rich. Rich was actually the one who asked Roy Thomas if I could ink Black Panther over Rich. So in some ways, Rich was responsible for getting my first professional gig.
Yeah, Buckler. My goal as a collector for the last couple of years has been to try to pick up as many pieces from, creators that contributed to my childhood. Buckler's on that list, and I have not yet found a page of artwork that, that hits me that I want to buy. But he's on my short list. I mean, I've always loved his work, and you think back to guys like him and Milgram and so many other creators of that era. That we all. As a Marvel fan, just really, really, grew up on all that stuff. And when you mention Gerber, you kind of forget sometimes the writers that contributed to those stories too.
Yeah.
But without him, Howard the Duck wouldn't have been half as good.
That's right. Absolutely right. Yeah, and they deserve, credit where the credit is due. Absolutely. Yeah. I think of the medium as a visual medium, but it starts with the story. So they deserve all the credit in the world. Bill, I wanted to thank you for a good job and for helping set up the tech stuff also.
Thank you.
Appreciate it very much. Without you, we'd still be struggling.
Yeah, it's a
Trying to
pleasure.
figure it out.
I'm the one who gets the real joy to get to hang out with you guys and talk to you about your career, and then also help facilitate sales too.
Thanks a lot.
It's really a lot of fun.
We'll do it again. We've broken the ice, and we can do it again. Okay.
We'll end on one question from the audience.
Sure.
And you're going to probably be very politically correct on this one. But Stevie B says, when you go into the Comics Hall of Fame, will you be wearing a Marvel hat or a DC cap?
Oh, man, that's a really tough question. And Stevie B, if you don't mind, I'm probably going to have to take a pass on that because I feel equal about it. I really do. To me, they remain the big two. That's kind of, how I was raised, I guess, in that respect.
Sure.
But man, that's a good question.
What you should do is you should have like a Two-Face jacket, with a Marvel logo sitting on one and a DC on the other. That would be the way to go.
That's almost like the outfit of a villain,
Right. Oh, yeah, but that'd be the joke. When you go up to accept your award, everybody will get it. They'll be like, you can't choose sides. And
no, they really, they've both. I have affection for both of them. I really do.
Wait, hold on. Okay, so I think let's see. One of the lots just got miscommunicated. You know what? I'll email them. So there might be one that was claimed that's not claimed.
That's not good. Okay.
All right.
It's just
you'll be able to work it out after the show. But Klaus, again, thank you so much, Jason.
Thanks, Bill.
Well. And I guess we should thank Jason D just a little bit, because he's a nice guy and all. But he wants to take credit for the show too. But thank you.
Actually, Jason is a great guy.
There's another Jason. It's the other white Jason.
Oh, well, I'm talking about you. I don't know the other Jason. I'm talking about you, Jason. Jason S.
Jason sometimes.
Jason
the other Jason's a great guy sometimes. But again,
sometimes
I can't tell you. Yeah. Sometimes he's been on our show on a few interviews and things, and he's a big fan of yours. And now he's lolling me.
I appreciate it.
But
all right, thanks, kid. Thanks,
thank you.
I appreciate it. Yeah.
All right, everybody.
Thanks.
Thank you, for spending a Saturday afternoon with us. We sincerely appreciate it. And
I thank the audience from the bottom of my heart. And I'll see you at conventions.
All right. Well, have a great weekend.